Rain hammers the domed skylights of Camino, but the sound is secondary to the quiet inside. Corridors gleam with a polished, almost antiseptic precision. The hum of machinery is constant, a low vibration beneath the stillness. Clones stand in rows, not moving, not breathing too heavily, just waiting. Each one mirrors the next, an endless echo of potential. Yet despite the uniformity, there is a subtle imperfection, something unfinished. In the observation decks above, Kaminoans move with deliberate grace. Their hands trace consoles and vats, eyes scanning readings with meticulous care. They treat life as a procedure, not a being, not a man, not yet. A droplet of condensation slides down a translucent tube, falling into liquid that holds the blueprint of an entire army. Here, identity is abstract. Purpose is encoded. Flesh is a formula. Jango stands apart in this space, though no one truly notices. Not as one of the clones, but as the source, the original. His presence is quiet, measured, almost like a shadow in motion. He observes the process, watches what is being built from him without interference. Hands clasped behind his back, leather gloves catching the flickering light of vats. Every movement is careful, minimal, nothing wasted. A template, yes, but still human. The clones are silent, but their eyes are alive with the faintest flicker of awareness. It is subtle, almost imperceptible, a reflection of the man they are modeled after. Above, the storm outside shifts. Flashes of lightning illuminate the facility in brief, harsh strobe. For a moment, shadows stretch across the clones, across the tables, across Jango's calm face. In that light, the emptiness of repetition is palpable. He steps closer to one of the vats, fingers brushing against the surface of the liquid. It ripples, and for a second, a face appears. His face multiplied countless times in potential. A man reduced to numbers and forms, yet still undeniably himself. The facility hums, machines pulse, water drips. Time stretches differently here. Moments linger. Outside, rain pounds, relentless. Inside, perfection is attempted, yet never fully achieved. Jango's eyes lift to the observation deck, where Kaminoans analyze data. No emotion is shown, only calculation, only efficiency. And yet, he feels the tension of what is to come. A quiet awareness that life built from a man is never entirely lifeless. He steps back, letting the rhythm of the facility continue without him. The clones remain still. The machines continue their hum. And somewhere in the silent spaces, Jango breathes, a man apart, yet intrinsically bound to what will follow. In the vats, the liquid stirs, reflecting faint light like glass. Inside, forms take shape. Limbs, torsos, faces, each one emerging with impossible precision. Every clone bears the same features, the same hardened expression, the same eyes. Jango watches, unblinking. He sees them before they are alive, yet already present, already mirrors of himself. It is unsettling, familiar and alien all at once. Hands trace the contours of a clone's face in the reflection. It is his face, yet not. The subtle nuances of life cannot be copied perfectly. A slight curl in the lip, a sharper tilt of the brow, tiny variations that hint at individuality. The clones shift slightly in their tanks, imperceptibly. A flicker of awareness, a ripple of existence, and then stillness again. It is a quiet rebellion against the design, a whisper of life refusing to be fully contained. Around him, the facility moves with its steady rhythm. Technicians adjust monitors, recalibrate sensors, check vitals. Each movement choreographed, exact. Efficiency rules here. Emotion is a variable to minimize. But Jango feels it. the tension in the air, the weight of what has been created. He is both observer and source, participant and outsider, a man who has given life to hundreds without ever fully giving himself. He steps closer to another vat, eyes following the contours of a face forming within. It is almost laughable in its perfection, yet haunting in its emptiness, a perfect replication of his own identity, and yet hollow. Lightning flashes again, throwing shadows across the rows of vats. In the brief illumination, the repetition is stark. Hundreds of faces, countless forms, all the same, all different, all copies of one man. Jango's reflection merges with theirs for a moment. He is everywhere and nowhere, the original, yet only one among many that will exist. The weight of that realization presses silently, deeply. He withdraws his hand, letting the liquid settle. A faint ripple moves across the surface, like a heartbeat delayed. It is not human yet. It is not alive, but it is becoming. In this place of perfection, imperfection is unavoidable. Subtle shifts in posture, tiny differences in expression. The cloners will follow orders flawlessly, but they cannot escape the trace of the man who made them. Jango moves through the rows, silent as a shadow. He does not speak, he does not intervene, and yet every movement he makes is remembered by the life that watches him from the vats. Rain continues to pound the dome above, a relentless reminder of a galaxy outside. Inside, creation hums steadily. Here, a man is multiplied endlessly, his essence repeated yet never truly complete. And in the quiet spaces between tanks, he allows himself a single thought. Perfection is a myth, even when built from a man. Jango stands on the observation deck, looking down at the rows of vats. The clones lie motionless, yet the potential in each is palpable. He watches, but he does not intervene. Every movement in the facility seems to occur in slow motion. Hands adjusting monitors, lights flickering along the walls. The rhythm of life engineered and measured, and he is at the center of it all. His eyes linger on a single clone as it begins to stir. The faintest twitch of a finger, a shift of an eyelid. It is a reminder. These beings are more than templates, more than numbers on a sheet. Memories flicker across Jango's mind. Moments of his own youth, battles fought, choices made. He does not smile. He does not regret. But he understands now, with every clone before him, the weight of what he has become. Above, the hum of machinery is steady, unrelenting. It fills the silence between thoughts, a constant reminder that life here is calculated, controlled, predetermined. He moves along the observation walkway, pausing over each vat. The clones' faces reflect his own features in subtle variations. A nose slightly sharper, a jaw more defined, a scar absent where he bears one. And yet, in every form, he sees possibility. Possibility of strength, possibility of loyalty, possibility of a future shaped by hands other than his own. The storm outside shifts, a distant echo through the dome. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating the facility in stark, fleeting bursts. In those flashes, the symmetry of the vats is almost overwhelming. Hundreds of faces, hundreds of lives waiting to begin. He pauses before one particularly still figure. The reflection of his own eyes meets his gaze. For a moment, he feels both connected and estranged. A man mirrored endlessly, yet alone in his awareness. Jango's hand hovers over the railing, a subtle gesture of restraint. To touch would be to alter. To interfere would be to impose his will on something that must grow on its own. So he waits, observes, breathes. The clones begin to move in sequence, rising from the liquid with mechanical grace. The first moments of consciousness are uneven, unsteady, and yet they are unmistakably alive. A quiet hum vibrates through the floor, through the vats, through the air. It resonates with Jango, a low note that ties him to the lives he has set in motion. And still, he does not speak. He does not act. In this space of creation, he is both witness and origin, neither fully participant nor removed observer. A man who watches the ripple of his own existence take shape before him. The facility falls into a rhythm all its own. Machines pulse, liquid shimmers, rain drums against the dome above. Time is measured in moments of observation, not seconds. Jango steps closer to the first vat. Its surface reflects him perfectly, yet the face within is still uncertain, not yet alive, not yet breathing. He watches the liquid shift, the form within flexing and stretching as it settles into shape. A hand forms first. Fingers curl, then straighten. The chest rises and falls, a faint echo of the rhythm he himself carries. In these moments, he feels the weight of anticipation. The first clone is more than a test. It is a promise, a shadow of what is to come, and yet it carries no guarantee of perfection. Every movement is deliberate, precise, almost reverent. The Kaminoans record, measure, observe. Every reaction is catalogued, every twitch logged. Lightning flashes across the dome, illuminating vats in a fractured glow. For a second, the reflection of Jango and the emerging clone blend into one. A man staring at what will become an echo of himself. He steps back, watches, waits. A single thought crosses his mind. Life is not simply replication. It is the sum of small, unpredictable moments. The clone flexes its limbs. Eyes flicker beneath the surface. The first sign of consciousness, tiny but undeniable. Jango exhales quietly. No one hears him, but the weight of the moment is heavy. He does not reach out. He does not speak. To interfere would be to impose his humanity on something still undefined. And this is not yet his to control. Outside, the storm intensifies. Rain lashes the dome, thunder rolling in distant, slow crescendos. Inside, the first spark of life moves with tentative grace, unaware of the man it mirrors. Jango turns from the vat, allowing the process to continue uninterrupted. He steps through the corridors, past rows of dormant forms awaiting their turn. Every reflection, every shadow, every subtle movement carries the weight of possibility. The clones are not yet soldiers, not yet tools, not yet replicas in the eyes of the galaxy. They are beginnings, potential, echoes of a man who watches but cannot fully grasp what he has set into motion. And in that quiet space, before the first copy fully awakens, Jango feels the paradox of creation. He is everywhere, yet alone. The original, yet already dispersed into countless possibilities. Smoke curls through the alleys. Flames lick at walls, consuming everything familiar. The smell of burning metal and scorched wood fills the air. A boy runs, small and alone, weaving between fallen beams and shattered doors. His hands are scraped, his clothes singed. Every shadow is a threat, every noise a warning. Gunfire cracks in the distance. Shouts echo through streets emptied by fear. He does not look back, though the memory of screams presses against his mind. Broken furniture and debris litter his path. Windows are shattered. The sky is thick with ash. Every step forward feels like walking through the remnants of a world that no longer exists. He pauses briefly, chest heaving, and surveys the devastation. Faces once familiar haunt the smoke, blurred, distant, lost. The boy's eyes are wide, reflecting a fear that will never fully leave him. A building collapses nearby, dust and stone raining down. The boy ducks instinctively, pressed to the edge of a scorched wall. Even in this chaos, survival instincts guide him. Footsteps approach from behind. He freezes, heart hammering, but no one comes into view. Only the echoes of conflict, carrying a lesson he cannot yet name. Trust is fleeting. The streets twist and fold like a labyrinth of memory. He remembers running before, running through alleys that seemed endless. But this time, everything is new, raw, unforgiving. A faint light breaks through smoke, a flare or a burning doorway. He moves toward it, drawn by the promise of something solid, something unmoving. Each step is measured, every breath is deliberate. In the distance, a figure appears, partially hidden by smoke. A stranger, unknown, yet offering the faintest thread of possibility. The boy hesitates, fear warring with instinct. He takes a tentative step forward. The fire crackles, the streets groan, the world shifts beneath him. And somewhere deep inside, a small part of him understands that this is only the beginning. Survival is not about strength. Not yet. It is about presence, awareness, waiting for the right moment. The boy moves again, faster now, slipping through the chaos like water through fingers. The world behind him collapses in noise and ash, but he keeps running. Every footstep carries him towards something he cannot name, toward a figure that may change everything. The streets are quiet now, but the silence is heavy. Ash drifts in thin clouds, settling on broken stones and scorched rooftops. The boy moves cautiously, scanning the remnants of what once felt safe. Doorways gape open like empty eyes. Walls are blackened, scarred by flame and violence. Each corner hides the memory of a life erased. He steps over a shattered table. A small toy lies among the rubble, a reminder of laughter long gone. He picks it up, then lets it fall. The past is unreachable. Smoke curls from chimneys still smouldering, the scent sharp and acrid. He pauses near a familiar building, barely standing, and touches the rough wood of a collapsed wall. The touch is fleeting, a whisper of connection to a home that no longer exists. Footsteps echo faintly behind him. He flinches, heart racing, but only shadows move through the debris. The city has become a place where ghosts lead the way. The boy remembers laughter, warm voices calling his name, familiar hands that lifted him, guided him, protected him. All gone now, replaced by emptiness and the constant hum of danger. He keeps moving, weaving through the skeletal remains of streets he once knew. Familiar landmarks are gone, replaced by ruin. Even the river that cut through the city seems slower, heavy with ash. A faint glimmer of movement catches his eye. A cat, thin and wary, slips through the wreckage. Its caution mirrors his own. Survival teaches instinct faster than memory ever could. He pauses at the edge of a courtyard, surveying the devastation. Trees stand blackened and broken, their leaves crisp and falling. Even nature has been marked by violence, reflecting the boy's own fractured world. Memories flicker without order. Birthdays, arguments, quiet nights before the chaos. They feel unreal now, and like distant echoes of another life. The boy swallows hard and steps forward, leaving the ghosts behind. He does not stop to mourn. Mourning is for those who have the time. He has only movement, only survival, only the faint hope that something or someone waits beyond the ruins. A faint light flickers in the distance, carried on the horizon. Not fire, not destruction, something else. The boy's pace quickens, drawn toward it, propelled by instinct more than certainty. The shadows of home stretch long behind him. They are weighty, unyielding, inescapable. Yet he moves, each step carrying him away from memory and toward a future he cannot yet imagine. The boy moves through streets flattened by fire. Walls lean, doors hang on broken hinges. The air tastes of ash and sorrow. Every step echoes, sharp against the silence. He is alone, yet the weight of absent voices presses around him. Each shadow seems alive, hiding threats or memories. He pauses in a courtyard where rubble forms jagged paths. A toppled cart lies half buried under stone, its contents spilled, long forgotten, yet telling stories of lives extinguished too soon. Wind blows through broken windows. It carries the scent of smoke and water, of life interrupted. The boy's breath catches. He tightens his grip on the small scrap of cloth in his pocket. A fallen statue lies in the center of the square. Its face is unrecognizable, worn by fire and time. He brushes ash from its base, almost instinctively, as if seeking connection with something solid, something enduring. No one comes. The streets are empty, except for the remnants of chaos. Each ruined home whispers a lesson. Nothing survives untouched. He moves again, careful to avoid sharp debris. His hands brush against charred wood, twisted metal, remnants of doors that once led to laughter. Each touch reminds him of absence, of a world reduced to fragments. A faint sound rises, a drip of water, the scuff of a distant foot, but it could be memory itself. He freezes, listening, measuring, then moves on. Alone among ruins, trust is a luxury he cannot afford. A window frame shakes in the wind, a fragile echo of life. He glances inside, seeing darkness only. For a moment, he imagines faces he knew. A mother, a father, friends, gone. He walks to the river that once carried boats and laughter. Now it is blackened, thick with debris. The reflection in the water is distorted, broken, like his own sense of self. Time stretches strangely here. Minutes feel like hours, hours like lifetimes. Every ruined street, every collapsed wall, every ash-covered stone adds weight to memory and fear. He pauses on a bridge, looking down at the murky water. He could stay, he could hide, but survival pulls him forward. Even in devastation, instinct leads him toward life. The horizon shimmers faintly, a distant glow beyond the ruined city. He knows somehow that movement is safety. That alone does not mean lost. And though the city lies in ruin, those shadows cling to every corner. He walks, step by step, breath by breath, carrying the fragile thread of life that has survived the fire. The faint glow on the horizon grows brighter. It is not fire, not destruction. Something else. Something that promises presence. A shape in the emptiness. The boy quickens his pace, legs carrying him through rubble-strewn streets. Every step echoes with memory. Every heartbeat warns of danger. Yet he moves forward, drawn toward what he cannot yet name. A figure emerges from the smoke, a silhouette at first, then clearer with each step. Tall, steady, deliberate, not threatening, not yet. The boy stops, unsure, watching. The stranger holds out a hand. It is simple, honest, a bridge across chaos. He hesitates. Fear warps his instincts. Every scar, every scrape, every moment of running whispers. Trust is a risk. And yet, instinct pulls him forward. The stranger kneels, bringing themselves closer to the boy's height. Eyes meet eyes. Calm, assessing, understanding without words. For the first time, the boy feels seen. Not as a survivor, not as a shadow, but as someone who matters. The hand remains outstretched. A lifeline. A choice. The boy steps closer, small fingers brushing against warmth, against promise. A low rumble echoes behind them, the distant collapse of another building. But in this moment, it is distant, insignificant. The only thing that matters is the hand that waits, patient, steady, offering something different from fear. The stranger speaks, voice low, measured, carrying weight and calm. The boy does not answer. Words are heavy, unnecessary. Action carries the meaning. A single step forward, a single grasp of a hand, and the fragile thread of connection is formed. They move together through the ruins, step by step, navigating debris, navigating memory. The boy does not look back, yet the weight of the city presses against him. Ash, smoke, shadows. But he is not alone. For the first time in a long while, fear softens. Hope flickers in the distance, fragile but undeniable. Survival is no longer just instinct. It is guidance. It is presence. The stranger does not speak of what lies ahead. There is no promise of safety, no guarantee of tomorrow. Only the steady hand, the quiet assurance, and the slow rhythm of forward motion. The boy's fingers close around the stranger's hand, a bond forged silently, in motion, in trust that is earned in a heartbeat. He feels a weight lift, almost imperceptibly, as he allows himself to be guided. The city remains broken. Shadows cling to every corner. But the boy walks, no longer entirely alone, no longer without a path. And somewhere deep inside, he begins to understand that survival is sometimes more than instinct. It is connection. Smoke rises from distant battlefields. The sky is a bruised grey, streaked with the trails of artillery fire. Across star systems, the Mandalorian civil wars rage, shaping destinies in shadows and flame. Jango moves through a crowded encampment, armor scarred, boots dusty. He is one among many, soldiers of a fading code, each trained for loyalty, obedience, and combat. Identity is uniform here. Individuality is secondary to survival and duty. The clamor of marching boots and shouted orders fills the air. Metal clangs against metal. Blaster fire punctuates the rhythm. The smell of smoke and sweat mingles with the metallic tang of armor. Jango's gaze scans faces in the crowd. He sees determination, exhaustion, fear, and resolve mirrored in every pair of eyes. He sees himself, reflected in fragments. Above, banners flutter, symbols of houses long broken, allegiances shifting with the winds of war. The Mandalorian crest is faded on many, pristine on few. History is being rewritten, one skirmish at a time, in alleys, on ships, across shattered plains. Orders come and go, delivered and obeyed with precision. The soldiers move as one, yet beneath the coordination lies tension. Fractures in loyalty, small rebellions, silent refusals to follow commands that once defined honor. Jango moves with measured steps, careful not to draw attention, careful not to appear exceptional. Yet instinct guides him, and even in anonymity, his presence is felt. He adapts, blending into the rhythm, a shadow among shadows. A distant explosion shakes the ground. Dust rises, choking the air, he momentarily obscuring friend and foe alike. In that cloud, alliances shift, loyalties fracture, chaos reigns. He catches glimpses of old rivals and allies, now strangers in the same ranks. The line between friend and enemy blurs. In the civil wars, certainty is a luxury no one can afford. A young soldier collapses nearby, exhausted from endless drills and skirmishes. Jango reaches instinctively, offering aid, yet hesitates. Help may draw unwanted attention. Even compassion is a calculated risk in a world at war. The sun breaks weakly through storm clouds. casting long shadows over the encampment. Every shadow conceals a story, every light illuminates a choice. And Jango, walking among them, carries both. His armor bears marks of previous conflicts. Scars etched in steel and flesh tell stories he does not speak aloud. Every strike survived, every battle endured, feeds into the man he has become. Amid the roar of war, he finds fleeting moments of stillness, a glance at the horizon, a quiet breath, a step forward. Even here, in the heart of chaos, survival demands awareness, patience, and adaptability. The civil wars rage on, indifferent to the individual. Yet every soldier, every choice, changes the tide, shapes the outcome, influences the next breath of history. And Jango, though only one among many, moves with the weight of legacy pressing against him. The battlefield quiets, but only briefly. Smoke lingers like a memory, clinging to scorched earth and shattered walls. Silence here is deceptive, a pause between chaos. Jango walks among the remnants, boots crunching on debris. Armor bears the marks of previous skirmishes. Each scratch, each dent tells a story he does not share. The Mandalorian code, a legacy of honor, loyalty, and identity, lies fractured around him. Houses once united now betray one another. Words of oath are replaced by whispers of distrust. A flag, torn and blackened, flutters weakly in the wind. It once symbolized unity, now only ash and faded memory. Jango reaches out instinctively, letting his fingers brush the tattered fabric. Around him, soldiers argue quietly, tensions simmering under the surface. Orders are questioned, commands ignored. The old ways, the code, the structure, all crumbling under the weight of survival and ambition. Jango stops at a burned-out training yard. Weapons lie scattered, broken. Targets are scorched, markings obscured by soot. He crouches, observing a small emblem etched into the ground, a symbol of loyalty he once revered. It is cracked, almost unrecognizable. The history it represents is fading, like smoke carried away by the wind. He recalls lessons learned long ago: discipline, honor, perseverance. Those lessons now feel fragile, easily lost among chaos, yet they guide him still, quietly, insistently. In the distance, the hum of distant engines signals approaching reinforcements. Alliances shift again. Trust becomes conditional. Survival dependent on perception and timing. Jango passes another soldier, a comrade once, now wary and distant. No words are exchanged, none are needed. Understanding is built in glances, in the recognition of shared experience and mutual reliance. A moment of reflection. He stands atop a small rise, overlooking the ruined encampment. The full scale of the disintegration is clear. Loyalty fractured, honor questioned, identity scattered. He tightens his gauntlets. The code is not dead, not yet, but it requires vigilance, precision, and acceptance of what has been lost. A faint ember glows in a distant building. It reminds him of resilience, of small sparks surviving amidst ruin. He moves toward it, careful, deliberate, a lone observer of a world in collapse. The Mandalorian code exists now in fragments, in gestures, in fleeting rituals, in quiet moments of honor maintained despite circumstance. And Jango carries it with him, an invisible weight shaping each choice, each step. Ash drifts through the air, settling on armor, on weapons, on faces hardened by survival. The smoke does not obscure purpose, it sharpens it. For every soldier, every choice, every breath, survival depends on memory and discipline. Jango pauses, listening to the distant echoes of conflict. He breathes, slow and controlled. The code may be fractured, but it is not gone. Step by step, he continues. Through ash, through ruins, through the collapse of unity. A Mandalorian without a world, yet holding on to what cannot be entirely destroyed. The encampment is crowded now, yet the faces blur together. Soldiers move with purpose, but their eyes betray weariness, suspicion, and uncertainty. Every glance carries a story, some of loyalty, others of betrayal. Jango weaves through the ranks, unnoticed, yet ever observant. He reads the subtle signs, a hesitation in step, a flicker of fear, a clenched jaw. Every detail matters, every moment carries weight. Some faces remind him of home, of a past partially remembered. Others are strangers, hardened by battle, marked by scars of every kind. All are connected by survival, yet divided by ambition and circumstance. Orders crackle through comlinks. Commands are given and followed, but the execution is imperfect, uneven. The civil wars leave gaps, and every soldier fills them differently. Some with honor, some with expedience. Jango stops briefly beside a young recruit, eyes wide with apprehension. The boy clutches a blaster too large for his hands. He trembles, not from cold, but from the knowledge that each decision may be his last. A flash of lightning illuminates the camp. Faces appear momentarily in stark relief. Fear, determination, hope, all exposed in a single heartbeat. Jango continues, blending with the crowd, absorbing the chaos without becoming part of it. He notices subtle hierarchies forming, alliances that shift depending on circumstance, loyalty contingent on perception. A nod here, a glance there, and the balance of power shifts silently. He passes a group arguing over spoils of a recent raid, voices low, tense, words sharp but controlled. Even in dispute, survival dictates restraint. Above, banners flap weakly in the wind, symbols once sacred now tattered, representing houses that may no longer exist. The code of honor is present in spirit, absent in practice. Jango's eyes catch a familiar insignia, half burned on a discarded piece of armor. It is a reminder of the legacy he carries, even as the world around him fractures. The man he was, the Mandalorian he trained to be. These identities coexist in tension, in observation, in silent calculation. A distant scream cuts through the air, sharp and urgent. A fight erupts near the edge of the camp. Some run, some intervene, some watch silently. Jango does neither. He observes. Every action is data, every reaction a lesson. In the crowd, he finds patterns, glimpses of loyalty, glimpses of fear, glimpses of opportunity. For a moment, he sees the whole of the civil wars reflected in these faces. Fractured unity, shifting alliances, fleeting loyalty, the constant presence of danger. Yet within the chaos, he notices resilience, the ability to adapt, survive, and endure. He moves forward, past clusters of soldiers, past fleeting confrontations. Step by step, he becomes both invisible and integral, a shadow within the storm. And in the crowd, among the faces of strangers and comrades alike, he begins to define who he is within the collapse. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across the camp. Faces fade into darkness, but the lessons remain, and Jango walks on, carrying memory, observation, and purpose, ready for the next test, the next battle, the next choice. The camp grows quieter as night falls. Fires burn low, casting flickering shadows on worn faces and dented armor. The chaos of the day fades, leaving only the weight of survival and memory. Jango walks among the remaining soldiers. They are kin by code, yet strangers by circumstance. Some nod in recognition, others avert their gaze, wary of attachments that can become liabilities. The code of Mandalore lingers like smoke, intangible but persistent. It reminds him of expectations, of duty, of identity. Yet the civil wars have hollowed its meaning, each leaving fragments scattered among the living. He finds a quiet corner, away from the embers and murmurs. Here he is not a soldier in a crowd. Here he is simply a man, alone, observing, measuring. Faces flicker in his mind, mentors, rivals, allies, lost friends. Each a reminder of what it once meant to belong. Now belonging is conditional, fragile, fleeting. The night wind whistles through the camp, carrying distant sounds of unrest. The civil wars do not pause for reflection. They continue, relentless, indifferent to fatigue or hesitation. Jango crouches briefly, inspecting a fallen helmet. Its owner is nowhere to be seen, likely claimed by battle or betrayal. The emptiness serves as a lesson. Survival favors neither loyalty nor familiarity. It favors adaptability. He rises and continues through the dimly lit pathways. Soldiers pass him, sharing brief glances that speak volumes without words. Trust is scarce. Observation is plentiful. A solitary fire flickers near the edge of the camp. Jango watches the shadows dance across the soldiers' faces, lit by embers and doubt. They are kin, yet each is an island. Connection is survival. Attachment is risk. He thinks of his own reflection among the crowd, his identity forged by skill, by observation, by the quiet discipline of a Mandalorian. The code exists in him, even if the world around him has lost it. It shapes his choices, governs his movements, and defines the man who walks among fragments of a shattered people. A distant howl echoes from the perimeter. The night is alive with tension, vigilance, and the constant presence of danger. Jango does not flinch. He simply notes it. She incorporates it into the rhythm of awareness that has kept him alive. He pauses for a moment, gazing at the stars above, pale and distant. The galaxy is vast, indifferent, and filled with conflict. And yet, here on this fractured world, he carries the weight of Mandalorian legacy alone. The fires dim further. Shadows stretch long and thin across the ground. Soldiers curl into rest where they can, temporary reprieves from endless struggle. Jango walks on, a solitary figure among kin, yet entirely alone. The civil wars rage, voices and weapons echoing into the night. He moves through them without pause, every step deliberate, every sense alert. In solitude, he finds clarity, focus, and the quiet power to endure. And as the night deepens, the man who is both observer and participant, soldier and lone witness, continues forward. He is Mandalorian, forged by code and conflict, alone among kin, yet carrying the essence of an entire culture on his shoulders. Jango stands tall amid the ruins of battle, armor scorched, weapon lowered, breath steady. Victory hums around him like a living thing, but it is already poisoned. Chains rattle at his wrists, hidden beneath the flaps of his armor. The celebration of triumph masks the subtle tightening of fate. Even as allies cheer, unseen hands are pulling strings he cannot yet feel. The battlefield stretches wide, littered with debris and silence. Blasters smoke, banners flutter weakly in wind, and bodies lie still. The roar of triumph mixes with the faint hum of betrayal, waiting just beyond sight. Jango's gaze shifts over the soldiers who fought beside him. Some nod in respect, unaware that loyalty has a limit. Some eyes glimmer with envy, hunger, anticipation of a moment yet to come. Above, a shuttle descends, engines slicing the sky. It carries authority, chains of command, promises disguised as orders. The man who once moved freely now feels the first brush of constraint. Victory is not earned, it is arranged. Every strike, every strategy, every ounce of effort has been anticipated, catalogued, used. Jango senses it instinctively, the subtle tightening of control around him. He steps forward, boots crunching on dust and metal. The cheers fade, replaced by silence punctuated only by the rattle of chains and distant explosions. His posture remains proud, yet cautious. Every movement measured, every gesture deliberate. Across the field, the wounded are gathered, examined, counted. Allies become inventory. Soldiers become statistics. And in the shadows, the architects of fate observe, smiling quietly at the inevitability of what is to come. Jango adjusts his gauntlets, feeling the weight of unseen shackles. Even the thrill of victory cannot mask the truth. Freedom is fragile, and triumph is temporary. Every win carries a cost, often invisible until it is too late. A messenger approaches, hand extended, bearing orders and official documents. Jango reads them, words sharp, precise, yet carrying undertones of control and expectation. Consent is optional only in appearance. Reality is already dictated. Lightning arcs across the horizon, briefly illuminating the battlefield. For a moment, he sees the full scale of what has been won and what is already lost. The field is not just a place of battle, but a stage where every victory has a hidden chain. He breathes in, steady, aware. The taste of triumph is bitter beneath the weight of inevitability. Even the cheers cannot drown the sound of the chains that await. Jango surveys the horizon once more. Victory glimmers like polished steel, cold and sharp. Yet beneath the shine lies the first threads of restraint, subtle but unyielding. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across scorched ground. Chains, promises, and unseen agendas stretch across the field like a web. Jango moves carefully, knowing that the path ahead is dictated not by skill alone, but by forces unseen and intentions hidden. And in that moment, amidst the echoes of triumph, he understands, even victory can bind. Even the strongest warrior is vulnerable when the cost is invisible. The battlefield, once a place of honor, is already a cage. The cheers of victory fade into distant echoes. Jango moves through the aftermath, every step measured, every breath cautious. The battlefield is quiet, yet the air is heavy with anticipation. He can feel it pressing against him. Allies congratulate, but smiles are thin, eyes calculating. Every nod, every handshake carries a weight unseen. Loyalty is conditional. Friendship is transactional. Betrayal waits in the corners. A messenger approaches, armor shining, bearing a sealed order. Jango takes it, hands steady, eyes scanning for any hint of deceit. The words command obedience, yet the tone whispers of manipulation. He glances over the soldiers around him. Some are still celebrating, unaware that the ground beneath their feet has shifted. Some exchange glances too quick, gestures too fleeting, tiny cracks forming in trust. A distant explosion rattles the nearby ruins. Dust rises, mingling with the smoke of past fires. It is both a warning and a signal. The game has already begun. Jango senses it, a subtle change in the air. Eyes follow him a fraction too long. Movements pause just a beat longer than necessary. Every action is a test. The triumph of battle has already sown seeds of treachery. Promises of reward are laced with expectation. Glory is a veil hiding intent, and each handshake conceals a blade. A comlink crackles. Orders are repeated, amplified, binding him to paths he did not choose. Even in victory, control slips away. He is surrounded by allies, yet alone. Each person a potential threat, each word a weapon. The wind carries faint sounds of preparation. A shuttle ready to depart. Chains waiting unseen, captors poised in silence. Victory has not freed him. It has arranged the stage for his next trial. Every smile, every gesture, just every glance is a prelude to restraint. Jango moves toward the edge of the camp, careful to maintain composure. The soldiers around him obey, but their obedience is hollow. They do not fight for him, they fight for themselves, for advantage, for survival. Lightning arcs across the sky, briefly illuminating every detail of the battlefield. In that flash, Jango sees the web forming around him. He understands now that every win, every moment of triumph has been leveraged, twisted into control. He pauses beside a fallen standard, once a symbol of unity, now scorched and torn. The fabric flutters weakly, echoing the fragility of trust. The lesson is clear. Honor is meaningless when ambition and fear rule. A figure emerges from the shadows, quietly assessing the battlefield. The intent is clear, though the words are absent. Every movement, every action, every decision is already anticipated. Jango exhales slowly. The taste of victory is sharp and bitter, tinged with inevitability. Even his triumph carries a cost he has not yet fully seen. The sun dips lower, shadows stretching long across broken earth. Chains of expectation tighten invisibly. Triumph and treachery are inseparable, bound together like twin blades. Jango moves on, knowing the next step is dictated not by skill, but by awareness. The battlefield has shifted from open conflict to subtle calculation, and in this quiet, dangerous space, he realizes victory is only the beginning of enslavement. The sun is low, casting long shadows over the field. Jango surveys the aftermath, chest still rising with exertion, yet mind already racing. Victory tastes hollow, a fleeting thrill swallowed by an unspoken weight. Every ally he trusted now carries a hint of doubt, a spark of ambition, a whisper of betrayal. Every gesture that seemed sincere is revealed as calculated. Even triumph bears its price, a cost he had yet to measure. A shuttle descends at the edge of the camp, engines humming a quiet warning. Its doors open with deliberate slowness, revealing figures in dark armor. Chains, restraints, authority, all poised to claim what was won by skill and sweat. Jango instinctively steps back, assessing distance, angles, and possible escape. The battlefield that celebrated him moments ago has become a cage. Every cheer now echoes as mockery, every nod as complicit in a plot he only glimpses. He notices the subtle signs first. A soldier lingering too long. A glance exchanged that carries meaning or beyond words. Small movements, quiet calculations, shadows of strategy playing out without open announcement. The civil wars have trained him well. He reads intent like a practiced hand. A hand touches his shoulder, gentle but firm. Not friend, not enemy. Just authority, cloaked in inevitability. The price of victory is clear. Freedom is negotiable. Loyalty is conditional. Survival demands obedience. Every advantage gained in combat is repurposed against him. Triumph has not elevated him, it has bound him. He scans the camp once more, noting what has shifted. Fires burn lower. Soldiers settle into uncertain rest, shadows stretching across debris. Yet the chains of expectation and control tighten invisibly around him. A voice issues an order, calm, authoritative, without hesitation. Jango feels it in his chest, in his hands, in the careful calculations of every step he must now take. Victory has led him here. Each blow landed feeding the trap. He steps forward, measured, deliberate, aware that every motion is watched. The battlefield transforms into a stage, every soldier a participant, every decision a thread in the web. Triumph is no longer his own. It belongs to those who orchestrated the conflict from behind the curtains. A figure approaches, cloaked and unreadable, yet power radiates in every movement. Chains are presented, metaphorical, invisible at first, then very real. Jango grips his weapons instinctively, aware that combat skills alone cannot secure what is demanded of him now. The smoke of earlier battles curls through the air, acrid and persistent. The fires of triumph illuminate the constraints of reality. Every victory has a cost, and now that cost is tangible, inescapable, and immediate. He exhales, steadying himself. The thrill of battle is gone. What remains is calculation, vigilance, and the awareness that freedom is a fragile illusion. Even a Mandalorian warrior must reckon with consequences beyond the reach of blaster or blade. Jango looks toward the horizon, where shadows mingle with the glow of the setting sun. Victory has illuminated the path forward, but it is narrow, constricted, bounded by unseen hands. The price of winning is revealed, heavy and undeniable, shaping the destiny he cannot yet escape. Step by step, he advances, mind sharp, senses taut, understanding now what he had yet to comprehend. Triumph has brought him not release, but restraint. Every move he makes is measured against a web spun long before the battle began. The chains are visible now, cold metal biting against his wrists. Triumph has faded, celebration has vanished. Victory, once bright, has transformed into captivity. Jango walks forward, each step measured, deliberate, aware of every eye upon him. The battlefield that moments ago celebrated his skill now watches silently, waiting, assessing. Every movement is accounted for, every gesture constrained. The shuttle hums softly, engines vibrating through the ground. Its doors open, a silent invitation and a warning. Authority steps forward, not to honor, but to claim what had been won and repurpose it. He glances at soldiers he fought alongside. Some avert their eyes, others watch silently. All have been swept along by the tides of power and control. Trust is absent, observation is constant. Victory carried him here. Triumph paved the path. Each success in battle became a step toward restraint. The battlefield is no longer a place of skill, but a stage of orchestration. A figure approaches, expression unreadable beneath the visor. Orders are delivered in calm tones, words precise yet carrying the weight of inevitability. Obedience is expected, compliance is assumed, resistance is costly. Jango flexes his fingers within the chains. Freedom is a memory, distant and fleeting. The code he carries, the legacy of Mandalore, offers no leverage here. The sun dips beneath the horizon, casting long, sharp shadows. Light falls unevenly across scorched earth, illuminating every scar, every fracture, every loss. Even in the fading glow, the weight of fate presses upon him, inescapable. He steps toward the shuttle, each movement deliberate. Behind him, the echoes of battle linger. Shouts, gunfire, the quiet groans of the wounded. Those echoes no longer guide him. They are reminders of what has been lost, what cannot be reclaimed. Chains clink softly as he moves, the sound a stark contrast to the roaring triumph that preceded it. Every victory bears a cost. Every battle leaves consequences unseen until the moment arrives. And now, that moment is here. He allows himself a brief glance upward, toward the stars just visible above the horizon. Vast, indifferent, untouched by wars or chains. The galaxy continues, unaware of this one warrior bound in its small corner. Jango inhales slowly, steadying himself. Resilience is internal, not external. Even in captivity, even bound by forces beyond skill or choice, he retains control over what matters: awareness, strategy, and determination. The shuttle doors rise, a passage into the unknown. He steps forward, chains rattling in soft rhythm. Each step is forward, though the path has narrowed, constrained by unseen hands, an inevitable design. The battlefield falls silent. Fires smolder. Shadows stretch and blend into night. Victory and defeat, triumph and betrayal, all merge into a single thread of inevitability. Jango walks into it, a Mandalorian shaped by battle, honor, and consequence. Chains of fate tighten, yet he does not falter. Even as the world dictates his movement, even as power seeks to contain him, he carries the weight of legacy. Step by step, he moves forward, a warrior bound yet unbroken, defined by the strength he alone controls. And as the shuttle ascends, carrying him away from the field of battle, one truth remains. Triumph may lead to chains, but the spirit that earned it cannot be restrained. The room is quiet, sterile, precise. Metal surfaces gleam under the soft lights. No fanfare, no ceremony, only the hum of machinery and the faint echo of footsteps. Jango stands at attention, eyes steady, expression unreadable. Every movement is measured, every breath controlled. He does not flinch, does not react, does not invite judgment. The Kaminoans observe him with detached scrutiny. Hands hover over instruments, noting vitals, responses, reflexes. Every detail is catalogued, every imperfection, or the lack of it, recorded. Count Dooku watches from a distance, his presence calm, yet commanding. He does not speak, only observes. His gaze weighs potential, calculating strategy, reading beyond the flesh to the mind within. A blip sounds on a monitor. Data streams across screens, translating movement. Strength, endurance into numbers, charts, probabilities. Jango's body becomes a subject under clinical evaluation, stripped of narrative, stripped of emotion. Sensors trace muscle response, bone density, reaction time. Reflexes measured, sight analyzed, hearing calibrated. He is tested without touch, without commentary, without unnecessary interaction. The hum of machines becomes a rhythm, a silent dialogue. Every heartbeat, every flicker of eye movement, every inhale is observed. There is no question of bravery, no assessment of honor, only precision. Jango remains calm, as though aware that observation itself is part of the test. He does not shift, does not anticipate, does not appeal. The calm is not arrogance, but acceptance, a prelude to something he cannot yet name. A holographic interface flickers to life, projecting metrics into the air. Count Dooku's eyes trace every line, noting strength and efficiency, noting weaknesses absent or trivial. The evaluation is complete in intention, though not in outcome. A Kaminoan technician steps closer, adjusting a scanner across Jango's chest. The device hums, a quiet intensity that could measure life itself. He stands motionless, the image of a perfect instrument awaiting its function. The room is devoid of drama, yet tension hangs thick, not in emotion, but in inevitability. Each calculated movement, each recorded measurement points to a conclusion already whispered in the air. Jango's gaze moves to the far wall, unblinking, observing his observers. He does not meet their eyes, but acknowledges the weight of their scrutiny. The process is clinical, precise, and merciless in its intent. Every data point, every chart, every calculation contributes to a single question. What is the value of a man reduced to perfect function? The answer is already forming in the minds of those who watch, though Jango remains still, silent, accepting. Time passes, measured by sensors, by heartbeats, by the flicker of lights overhead. Nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. Everything is recorded, everything noted, everything assessed with ruthless precision. The evaluation ends as quietly as it began. Jango lowers his stance slightly, but the calm remains. He has been measured, tested, observed, and he stands unshaken, a perfect subject in a room that treats him as both asset and anomaly. In silence, the truth is clear. The next step, whatever it may be, is inevitable. And Jango, alone yet composed, she already understands that precision has consequences beyond observation. Jango stands still as the room hums with instruments and quiet calculations. Every muscle, every tendon, every reflex is under scrutiny. The Kaminoans do not speak, they only measure, record, and analyze. A monitor flickers, projecting schematics of bone density and muscle elasticity. Sensors trace his skeletal alignment, noting symmetry, endurance, and resilience. Every blink, every twitch, every heartbeat is logged with detached accuracy. Count Dooku leans slightly forward, hands folded, eyes calculating. He does not intervene, does not comment. The evaluation is not about approval. It is about potential, utility, perfection. Jango's body reacts instinctively to stimuli. Visual cues, sound bursts, tactile triggers. Each one tests reaction time, focus, and an adaptive capacity. His mind remains calm, methodical, anticipating none, responding only as trained. A technician adjusts a scanner along Jango's forearm, reading nerve response and grip strength. Numbers rise, stabilize, fluctuate, all translating the physical into empirical certainty. He is a soldier, a tool, a specimen, measured down to microscopic detail. The hum of machines is rhythmic, almost hypnotic. It marks the passage of time in precision beats rather than minutes. Every test conducted is silent, meticulous, and exacting. A holographic display shifts, overlaying previous measurements with predictive models. Potential outcomes, reaction probabilities, and tactical efficiency are calculated in real time. Jango observes without expression, understanding that observation itself is a part of evaluation. His breathing is steady, controlled. Each inhale, each exhale, perfectly timed. The calm is unshakable, a signal of mental discipline as precise as his physical responses. A Kaminoan notes something on a digital slate, tapping lightly. Another adjusts a monitor, aligning vectors to track joint movement and range of motion. Every detail, however minute, is accounted for. Nothing is left to chance. Jango moves through a sequence of exercises, precise, minimal, controlled. Every step, every rotation, every swing is measured against the ideal of efficiency. There is no flair, no exaggeration, only function, only purpose, only accuracy. Count Dooku tilts his head slightly, watching the integration of data and form. He sees the warrior within the body, the perfect balance of skill, strength, and reflex. No emotion interferes with judgment. Only metrics, only performance, only outcome. A moment passes, quiet and deliberate. The machines beep, record, and adjust. Jango's responses remain flawless, unbroken, exact, a living standard of calculated perfection. Even in observation, even under relentless analysis, he is composed. The room's calm intensity mirrors his own internal precision. Every metric confirms not only capability, but predictability, reliability, and control. The session concludes as quietly as it began. Jango steps back, measured, deliberate, unshaken by scrutiny or calculation. He is a warrior, quantified, defined, and yet entirely himself in the silence between metrics. Outside the evaluation chamber, the consequences of perfection already whisper. Every data point, every charted reflex, every recorded heartbeat is a key, unlocking decisions beyond the scope of battle. The Kaminoans and Dooku will act on it, shaping destinies while Jango remains disturbingly calm, almost anticipating what cannot yet be spoken. And in that quiet, precise observation, one truth is undeniable. Perfection is not just measured in skill, but in obedience to calculation, in acceptance of inevitability, in the warrior's own controlled response. The room remains silent, save for the soft hum of machinery. Jango stands still, eyes level, expression unreadable. He is no longer being observed for skill alone. Now the focus shifts to purpose, obedience, and potential deployment. A Kaminoan approaches, carrying a data slate. Numbers, parameters, operational scenarios, each line a framework of expectation. Jango reviews it briefly, noting the precision without hesitation or judgment. Count Dooku speaks for the first time. His voice is quiet, even, deliberate. Each word is chosen to outline conditions without emotion, terms without appeal. You will be utilized according to efficiency, Dooku states, voice calm, measured. Your skills, your reflexes, and your tactical precision are required. Compliance is expected. Adaptation is essential. And choice is secondary. Jango absorbs the words, his mind a still lake. No reaction, no defiance, no argument. Every clause, every condition, every subtle implication is registered, processed, understood. The Kaminoans detail modifications, enhancements and restrictions, armor calibrated for efficiency, weapons adapted for precision, strategies mapped for optimal success. Jango listens without comment. Each adjustment, another variable in the equation he already anticipates. A technician presents a holographic projection of the battlefield scenarios, missions, objectives, contingencies, all visualized in precise, unemotional clarity. Each action has a predicted outcome, each decision a predetermined consequence. Jango steps forward, examining the projections, tracing vectors with gloved fingertips. The calculations are exact. The scenarios leave no room for improvisation beyond what has been deemed acceptable. Count Dooku observes silently, hands folded, eyes assessing. The terms are not negotiable. They are parameters of expectation, boundaries of engagement. Every decision Jango might make is anticipated. Every move catalogued before it occurs. Even the air in the chamber seems to hold tension. Not dramatic, not emotional, simply the weight of inevitability. Every word spoken, every condition outlined, solidifies the path ahead. A subtle nod passes between the Kaminoans. They have presented the data, confirmed the calculations, and established the boundaries. Jango's calm presence underscores the finality of their terms. He does not speak, but his silence is acknowledgement. Acceptance is not stated, but inferred. The terms have been delivered. The conditions are clear. The responsibility is defined. Every adjustment, every parameter, every projected scenario frames his role with unflinching clarity. The warrior is now also the instrument, the mission, the standard of precision. Emotion is irrelevant. Compliance is functional. Performance is measured. Jango steps back slightly, allowing the projection to fade. The chamber is quiet again, instruments humming softly. Every metric, every term, every expectation lingers invisibly, shaping the path forward. Outside the silent room, the galaxy waits unknowingly. A weapon has been crafted, honed, and precisely measured. Jango stands at the center, calm, precise, and disturbingly aware of what is required. Even as the consequences of these terms ripple across systems yet unseen, he remains composed. Every mission, every engagement, every deployment will follow the boundaries now set. The terms are clear, the expectations defined, and the warrior ready in silence. And in the quiet, precise acceptance of obligation, one truth resonates. Prepared for war, measured for efficiency, Jango is already aligned with a fate that cannot be reversed. The evaluation ends, but its weight lingers. Jango remains still, calm, collected. The room is quiet, instruments idle, yet the sense of purpose hangs heavy. He steps lightly toward the chamber's exit, each movement deliberate, armor calibrated, weapons secured, mind sharpened. Every adjustment, every calculation, every expectation is internalized, precise and accepted. Count Dooku watches, expression unchanged. The decision has been made, the conditions agreed upon, though silently. Jango does not speak. Acknowledgement is in posture, in composure, in quiet understanding. Outside the chamber, the world continues as if unaware. A shuttle waits, engines humming softly. The galaxy does not yet know the scope of what has been forged. Jango pauses, glancing briefly at the horizon beyond the doors. Stars glimmer faintly, distant and indifferent. His reflection in the polished floor shows a warrior prepared, ready, disciplined, unyielding. The Kaminoans catalogue final data, recording metrics and scenarios. Every pulse, every reflex, every tactical projection is now archived. The assessment is complete. The warrior has been measured, evaluated, and deemed suitable. Silence is no longer empty. It is filled with understanding. The terms are accepted, the obligations acknowledged, and the path forward clear. No hesitation, no protest, no need for dialogue, only readiness. Jango adjusts his gauntlets, feeling the fit of armor and weight of blasters. Every element has been optimized for function, efficiency, and precision. Even the smallest detail has been accounted for, yet the spirit remains his own. Count Dooku steps forward, a quiet nod signaling approval. The Kaminoans observe, hands folded, expression neutral. All parties understand. A decision has been reached, irreversible yet acknowledged with clarity. The shuttle doors rise, revealing the vessel waiting to carry him beyond Kamino's seas. Jango steps forward, chains of obligation, invisible but present, wrapping around duty and purpose. The calm in his movements reflects acceptance, not resignation. The galaxy waits beyond the doors, unaware of the precision weapons stepping into its folds. Every mission, every engagement, every challenge has been anticipated, planned, and prepared. Jango carries not just armor and weaponry, but the weight of expectation, the imprint of calculated purpose. Silence surrounds him as the engines engage. The hum is steady, reliable, relentless. It mirrors the precision now instilled in him, the inevitability of the role he has embraced. He stands, poised, balanced, ready for what comes next. The warrior has been measured. The warrior has been deemed perfect. And in the quiet of acceptance, one truth resonates across the chamber and into the galaxy beyond. Prepared, precise, and unshakable, Jango Fett is no longer simply a soldier. He is the instrument, the weapon, the culmination of calculation and discipline. And he has accepted it silently, fully, and irrevocably. The shuttle cuts through Kamino's clouds, engines humming a steady rhythm. Jango sits, armored, quiet, eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Rain lashes the viewports, a curtain of silver that mirrors the storm inside him. He does not speak. No one else is present, yet the weight of observation lingers in every calculated motion. Thoughts drift, not in urgency, but in measured reflection, a careful survey of consequence and memory. Boba, small and untested, sits across from him. The boy stirs occasionally, restless, unafraid. untouched by the precision that governs Jango's life. He is a deviation from expectation, a spark uncalibrated by rules or calculations. Jango's mind wanders, as if mapping the boy's potential in real time. Muscle memory, reflex response, adaptability, he notes each, in cataloguing silently. But the metrics do not capture something essential: presence. Presence cannot be measured. It exists in pauses between words, in the tilt of a head, in the unforced curiosity of a child. Boba carries it naturally, unaware of the weight his existence imposes on the man across from him. The ship vibrates, metal resonating with engines and turbulence. Jango notices how the boy's small hand presses against the armrest, how his eyes track motion beyond the glass. Subtle, untrained observations, yet profoundly human. Jango's reflection shimmers faintly in the viewport. Armor, helmet, and weaponry outline the man, formidable, disciplined, precise. Inside, the calculations continue, as they always do, but now tempered by another presence, soft yet persistent. No words pass between them. Silence becomes dialogue, and in it, Jango hears lessons not taught, but felt. Responsibility, caution, and care interlace with instinct and training, forming a pattern he cannot fully articulate. He recalls fragments of his own past, moments before the storms, the raids, the betrayals. A boy in a world undone, learning survival in pieces. Boba is unbroken in ways he himself never was. The contrast is stark, yet not bitter. It is observation, reflection, assessment, not judgment. A father sees potential, sees risk, sees a mirror he cannot touch directly. Jango shifts slightly, testing the fit of armor, the balance of blasters at his hips. He imagines scenarios, subtle, quiet, all measured to maintain safety, efficiency, and growth. Yet every plan accounts for unpredictability, something metrics cannot control. Boba hums softly, a note of song perhaps, a simple rhythm against the calculated quiet of the shuttle. Jango listens, cataloguing instinctively, noting patterns without imposing, learning without speaking. The boy moves, stretches, tilts his head, tiny deviations from expectation. But Jango does not correct, does not restrain. He realizes the greatest lesson is not in training, not in calculation, not in discipline. It is presence, awareness, attunement to the world in a way that cannot be measured. Boba's existence teaches it silently. The clouds part briefly, revealing a glimpse of distant horizon, pale light filtering through. Reflections shimmer across the viewport, merging boy and man, past and present. The storm is both outside and within, yet the calm between them endures. Jango exhales slowly, controlled, measured. The internal monologue continues, but softened, she tempered by observation rather than calculation. Silence is no longer empty, it is connective, foundational, intimate. Even as the shuttle carries them forward, both toward missions, assignments, and battles unseen, a quiet understanding persists. Some lessons cannot be taught, only shared. Some presences cannot be measured, only felt. And in the hum of engines, in the flash of clouds, in the quiet weight of the boy across from him, Jango knows that reflection is a responsibility, and silence is a language all its own. Boba watches the horizon with wide eyes, unshielded and unguarded. Jango studies him quietly, the man's instincts calibrated to notice, to record, to evaluate. Yet in the boy, he sees something that defies metrics, something raw, unrefined, and unmistakably human. Every gesture is a reflection of what he once was. The tilt of the head, the frown of concentration, the flicker of curiosity. They are fragments of a self he cannot fully touch. The child becomes a mirror, unintentional yet precise in its honesty. Jango's own movements are measured, practiced, refined. Each step, each glance, each shift of weight has been honed by years of discipline and survival. Boba, in contrast, moves with unpredictable rhythm, instinct without calculation. The contrast strikes a chord deep within him. The boy's spontaneity is uncomfortable, yet illuminating. It reminds Jango that perfection, while necessary, is not the totality of existence. In the quiet of the shuttle, engines humming steadily, Jango's thoughts trace past memories. He recalls the fires, the loss, the shaping of muscle and mind into precision instruments. Boba is untouched by that crucible, yet he carries potential in its purest form, unshaped, untamed, unbroken. Each small action of the boy prompts reflection. A fidgeting hand, a tilt of the head, a quiet laugh, subtle, unmeasured, yet powerful. They remind Jango of lessons learned too late, of caution tempered by curiosity, of instinct that had been trained into compliance. The reflection is uncomfortable. He sees his own flaws, his own limitations, his own history refracted in this small figure. Yet it is not despair he feels. It is understanding, measured, and calm. Boba reaches for a small trinket on the floor of the shuttle, lifting it with care. Jango watches, noting balance, coordination, and awareness. The boy's movements are clumsy, natural, and startlingly precise in ways Jango did not anticipate. A quiet thought forms, unspoken. In Jango's mind, this child may teach him more than any battle ever could. Observation becomes learning. Reflection becomes guidance, though not yet action. He notices the boy's breathing, the steady rise and fall of chest, the subtle shifts of weight. Every detail is absorbed, catalogued not as a tactical advantage, but as a window into a human being. The boy is alive, unshaped, and unbound. Jango's mind drifts again to himself as a child. What would he have given for someone to notice him this way, without judgment, without immediate correction, simply seeing? The child's presence is a silent echo, resonating across years and experiences. Boba hums softly, tilting his head toward the viewport. The gesture is casual, innocent, yet it mirrors a motion Jango once made, long ago, before training, before discipline. The reflection is uncanny, precise, and unavoidably intimate. Jango inhales slowly, controlled, letting the moment settle. He recognizes a truth too easily overlooked. Strength is measured in ability, but character is measured in presence. The boy possesses the latter in abundance, untouched by calculation, untempered by the demands of survival. Time passes, unspoken yet heavy with observation. The engines hum steadily. Clouds drift past, reflecting light in fleeting bursts, illuminating both figures in quiet symmetry. The child's eyes meet his briefly. No words are exchanged, yet the connection is clear. Observation, reflection, recognition, all pass silently between them. Jango adjusts his gauntlet slightly, a small motion of habit. Boba mirrors it unconsciously, a subtle echo of the man across from him. The reflection is exact, yet unintended, innocent, and profound. In this mirrored dance of awareness, a new understanding forms. Potential exists not only in strength or skill, but in responsiveness, in presence, in adaptability. Boba embodies it fully, naturally, and without artifice. Jango allows himself a faint exhale, unspoken relief or recognition. The child's existence refracts his own past, offering insight, reflection, and perhaps redemption in ways battles never could. The shuttle moves forward, engines steady, carrying them toward a future undefined yet palpably shaped. And in that quiet, introspective observation, one truth becomes undeniable. The child is a mirror, unflinching and true, reflecting the man he was, the man he is, and the man he might yet become. The shuttle drifts through the clouds, terrain slicing past the viewports like silver threads. Jango remains seated, armor rigid yet relaxed, eyes observing the boy across from him. Boba does not speak, yet fills the space with quiet presence. Each movement a question, each glance a lesson unasked. Silence between them is instructive. No words are needed to convey boundaries, awareness, or consequence. Jango's attention is constant, meticulous, and unobtrusive, allowing the boy to exist unshaped, yet fully visible. He recalls his own childhood in flashes: fire, loss, betrayal, the need to survive. Those moments were lessons learned harshly, brutally, often too late. Now he recognizes that some lessons are better observed than enforced. Boba tilts his head, examining a small mark on the armor that glints under the shuttle's light. Curiosity is innate, untaught, unrefined. Jango notes the motion without interrupting, noting the way the boy's hands explore texture, balance, and form. Each action is small, yet significant. The boy is learning not from words, but from observation, from consequence, from subtle guidance embedded in quiet presence. Jango's own past experiences echo in these movements, offering insight he never received. He imagines the boy in situations yet to come, missions, encounters, threats unseen. How will he react? What choices will he make? The lessons Jango imparts now will not be spoken, but inferred, absorbed in motion, in attention, in instinct. Boba shifts slightly, humming a quiet rhythm to himself. It is insignificant in sound, yet striking in its constancy. Jango notes it, a heartbeat within the stillness, a subtle marker of presence and awareness. The man thinks of teaching differently now. Not commands, not corrections, not lectures, but examples, demonstrations, and silent acknowledgement. Actions resonate deeper than words. Observations linger longer than commands. The shuttle tilts, responding to turbulence, and Boba adjusts instinctively. He does not stumble. Balance is instinctual. Jango observes, silently approving, noting the harmony of untrained reflex and natural precision. A reflection in the viewport catches Jango's eye, himself, the boy, and the shimmer of clouds outside. The image is fractured yet whole, a mosaic of past, present, and potential. The silent lessons pass through him as clearly as they will pass through the boy. Every shift, every glance, every subtle action is a thread woven into understanding. Jango does not interfere. He allows the boy space to learn, to react, to exist. The absence of imposition becomes a lesson itself: autonomy, observation, presence. He recalls battles fought, strategies executed, and victories won. All required instruction, yet most relied on instinct, refined through repetition. Boba will acquire instinct differently, through observation, through quiet, through example, and through trust. The engines hum steadily, the shuttle gliding forward like a measured heartbeat. Each vibration, each shift, each soft creak of metal is noted, absorbed, recorded in silent understanding. The boy's growth is subtle but undeniable, reflected in posture, gaze, and motion. Jango shifts slightly, allowing a small smile to touch the corner of his mouth. It is imperceptible, fleeting, yet intentional, a silent acknowledgement of comprehension and presence. The boy glances up, unaware, yet the connection is already established, unspoken yet absolute. No words are exchanged, none are necessary. Lessons reside in attention, in example, in the quiet management of space and consequence. Boba internalizes, reacts, and learns without knowing it, guided by the man who both watches and refrains. The clouds part briefly, revealing a pale horizon. Light reflects across armor and small, untested features, illuminating the subtle mentorship that exists without formal instruction. The boy absorbs it all, a mirror to what has been, and a projection of what may yet be. Jango exhales slowly, measured, almost imperceptible. He understands now that some lessons can only be shared in silence, and that presence is the greatest teacher. The boy watches, learns, and grows, unshaped, yet profoundly shaped by observation alone. And in the quiet hum of the shuttle, in the subtle rhythm of attention and movement, one truth crystallizes. The most important lessons are unspoken, yet they endure, resonating long after words have faded. The shuttle glides through a thinning storm, clouds parting to reveal pale, distant stars. Jango sits, eyes forward, armor pressed lightly against his frame. Boba is quiet beside him, fingers tracing patterns on the seat, unaware of the weight of what is unfolding. Shadows of legacy stretch long across the boy, reaching backward and outward simultaneously. Jango observes, noting how small gestures mirror larger truths he cannot yet articulate. A tilt of the head, a hesitant glance, a restless shift of weight. Each movement hints at instinct, presence, and potential. The man reflects on his own path, the chain of decisions and consequences that shaped him. Every battle, every victory, every loss has been a lesson etched in experience and blood. Now he contemplates how that legacy will interact with someone untested, unshaped, and unaware. Boba hums softly, a rhythm barely audible over the hum of the engines. It is innocent, persistent, and grounding. Jango notes it. The small pulse of life that contrasts with calculated preparation, measured response, and trained discipline. He thinks of the Kaminoans, of Count Dooku, of the precision that molded him. Everything was defined, anticipated, and controlled. Boba exists outside of those constraints, yet Jango sees reflection, patterns emerging organically, subtly, unnaturally. The shuttle rocks gently as air currents shift. Jango's hand rests lightly on his gauntlet, feeling the weight of responsibility. Not for the galaxy, not for missions, but for the boy beside him, whose existence is both deviation and continuation. He recalls his own childhood, fragments of fire, chaos, and survival etched into memory. Lessons learned harshly, painfully, often too late. He wishes now to create a different pathway for this child, one informed by experience, tempered by awareness, guided by silent observation. Boba shifts slightly, glancing up at Jango with an unspoken question. There is trust in that glance, though untested, fragile, yet unmistakable. The reflection is mutual. A silent acknowledgement passes between them, heavy with consequence, yet delicate in execution. The stars appear faintly through gaps in cloud, distant and indifferent. They are constant, impartial, much like the rules Jango once obeyed without question. Now, however, he navigates not just rules and training, but responsibility towards someone unshaped, yet profoundly affected by his presence. Each lesson he imparts will be unspoken, absorbed quietly, and applied instinctively. The boy will learn through observation, through presence, through mirrored actions, and through subtle guidance. Jango's legacy will unfold not in speeches or commands, but in example and silent calibration. The shuttle descends slowly, engines steady, carrying them toward a destination neither fully named nor understood. Jango observes the boy, noting how small patterns anticipate adaptation, how subtle movements reflect understanding. He realizes that legacy is not inheritance alone. It is interaction, perception, and influence. The weight of the past presses lightly on his mind, but not oppressively. It is a presence, a reminder, a guide. He carries it quietly, allowing it to inform without dominating. Boba stretches slightly, yawns, and returns attention to the view. Unaware, yet aware in ways that matter, he absorbs guidance without instruction. The lessons of a father without precedent, of a man without past fully reconciled, are transmitted quietly, profoundly, invisibly. Jango shifts, glancing briefly at the boy's reflection in the viewport. The boy is both himself and something new, a convergence of potential and inherited instinct. Shadows of legacy fall across him, shaping motion, response, and awareness without command or coercion. The shuttle moves steadily, engines soft but persistent. Outside, the stars and clouds move in parallel rhythm. Inside, the silent exchange continues. Lessons, observation, reflection, unspoken yet undeniable. He exhales slowly, measured, and allows the weight of understanding to settle. The boy will carry both inheritance and deviation, instinct and presence, guidance and freedom. And Jango, father without past fully reconciled, acknowledges that his own legacy is not imposed. It is mirrored. The storm has passed, clouds scatter, light filters through, illuminating armor and boy alike. Both figures sit in quiet, reflective understanding, poised for the unknown, informed by history, ready for presence, prepared in silence. The shadows of legacy have been cast, observed, and accepted, silent, enduring, and unbroken. The corridors of Coruscant pulse with quiet urgency. A senator moves swiftly through the halls, the flicker of hollow screens reflecting off polished floors. Conversations slip past unnoticed, coded words exchanged like shadows in daylight. Whispers carry farther than voices. Messages hidden in casual greetings, subtle nods, and inconspicuous gestures traverse the city, threading through politics and commerce alike. Jango moves along the margins, invisible but attuned, reading the currents of unrest before they solidify. A conflict simmers between worlds, yet no declaration is made. Star systems align and fracture in secret, their loyalties shifting with every unseen negotiation. Mercenaries, bounty hunters, and shadowed enforcers move quietly, their contracts whispered and written in code. Jango notes patterns, minor deviations that could escalate into chaos. Each political whisper, each secretive movement feeds into his understanding of what is coming. He tracks the murmurs across multiple systems, their reach extending like invisible tendrils through the galaxy. In a dimly lit apartment on the lower levels, a message transmits in haste. Encrypted, layered, and deliberately ambiguous, it carries intent without declaration. Those who receive it understand half, fear the rest, and act accordingly, feeding the ripple that Jango anticipates. The boy on Camino, Boba, is distant in memory, yet present in thought. Jango recalls the lessons of silence, observation, and reflection, understanding that awareness is as much a weapon as any blaster. He internalizes the subtle movements of this unfolding storm without distraction. Across the core, a ship docks quietly, its arrival unnoticed by the majority. A figure disembarks, robed, masked, moving with purpose. Orders whispered into comms, unseen hands shifting strategies, unseen eyes tracing every motion. Political leaders speak in grand halls, unaware that the murmurs in corridors are already shaping outcomes. They debate openly, unaware that every word is weighed against invisible forces, against assassins, spies, and mercenaries. The balance of power shifts quietly, subtly, before anyone can claim notice. Jango navigates the underbelly, slipping past security, through docks and into back alleys. His presence is deliberate but invisible. Every step measured, every glance catalogued, every observation sharpened. A senator's aide passes by, whispering a coded phrase. Jango catches it, passes it, and adjusts his awareness. The threads of conspiracy, subtle and interwoven, begin to take shape in his mind, forming a map of intent and consequence. Every shadow has weight. Every silence carries meaning. Every misstep could ripple into violence, and Jango stands ready at the edge of perception. In another sector, assassins gather, cloaked in plain clothing, blending with crowds. Targets are noted, escape routes memorized, contingency plans layered atop contingency plans. The whispers reach them too, feeding into timing, opportunity, and precision. The city lights flicker, artificial suns illuminating buildings taller than any memory of Camino could conceive. Jango notes the symmetry of chaos and order, understanding that both coexist in tension, each feeding the other. He remains both observer and participant, a shadow poised to intervene if the current tips. Conversations at holotables are casual, but every word is selected, measured, and coded. Deals made in shadow, promises kept in silence, debts recorded in the memory of those who move unseen. Jango sees the patterns, invisible to most, yet stark and clear to him. He recalls the quiet lessons with Boba, presence, observation, subtle guidance. The boy taught him the strength of awareness, the power of perception. Now it applies beyond father and son, beyond mentorship, into the broader currents of galactic tension. A droid passes him, scanning, noting. Even machines are actors in this unseen theater, relaying information but unaware of context. Jango reads both human and mechanical signals, blending instinct with observation. In a distant starport, ships prepare to depart in haste. Some are armed, some empty, all carrying implications far beyond their passengers. Orders are whispered, signed, and transmitted without ceremony or fanfare. The galaxy is a web, invisible yet palpable, threads moving unseen across light years. Jango moves along these threads, neither central nor idle, understanding that timing is everything. A whisper too late, a glance too slow could alter outcomes. He observes a minor scuffle in a marketplace, unremarkable except for the precision of movement. A hand-to-hand altercation, subtle and controlled, reveals discipline and intent. Even small events carry weight. Even minor interactions feed the storm. Above him, towers glint, reflecting artificial suns, hiding shadows within their design. Those shadows are active, alive, feeding information, and Jango notes each subtle motion. The patterns form a prelude, a signal that war is approaching, though no official declaration exists. In a quiet alley, he pauses, listening. A merchant haggles, a spacer laughs, and all seems ordinary. Yet beneath normalcy, currents shift, alliances strain, and tension accumulates like storm clouds unseen. Jango moves on, silent, measured, aware of the fragility of balance. Each whisper he hears is a seed of consequence. Each observation he makes prepares him for action, positioning him as both shadow and agent, unseen but pivotal. And as he glides through the city's underbelly, watching, listening, understanding, he realizes that war is not announced. It begins in whispers, in shadows, in subtle movements unnoticed by the untrained eye. The galaxy tilts quietly, and Jango is poised to navigate its silent inevitability. The corridors of power conceal more than debate. Behind closed doors, hidden orders pass from hand to hand, documented, coded, and sealed with discretion. Jango observes, detached yet fully aware, tracing the flow of commands that will ripple across systems. Holocoms flicker in shadowed offices. Messages arrive encrypted, layered with false identifiers, timed for maximum effect. Each transmission carries intention, expectation, and the subtle manipulation of influence. The Republic remains outwardly calm, yet beneath the polished surfaces, wheels turn unseen. Senators, aides, and strategists act as instruments, guided by directives they scarcely comprehend. Jango moves among them like a silent observer, cataloguing deviations, anticipating outcomes. A messenger steps lightly across the floor, delivering a small package. Its contents are innocuous to the untrained eye, yet pivotal in design and consequence. Jango notes every detail, the angle of approach, the hesitation in movement, the sequence of interaction. Elsewhere, a secluded chamber hums with activity. A holographic map illuminates faces, star systems, and fleets. Plans are drawn, contingencies layered atop contingencies, all in preparation for events not yet visible to the galaxy at large. Jango's mind traces each layer, connecting unseen dots. Every action, every order, every subtle shift of authority feeds into a network he can navigate instinctively. The threads of influence are invisible, yet precise, and he moves along them like water through channels. A distant message reaches him via coded droid relay. It contains minimal instruction, but maximum implication. Jango passes it instantly, noting the implied targets, timing, and expected reactions. Assassins, hidden in plain sight, carry out their routines. Each strike is preordained, measured, and calculated. Yet unpredictability exists in small deviations, human error, and instinct. Jango watches, mentally cataloguing variables. In another sector, supply convoys are rerouted discreetly. Ships carrying munitions and personnel shift silently, their movement invisible to casual observation. Every alteration in schedule, every adjustment in route, is a ripple feeding larger currents. The Senate debates policy publicly, unaware that silent forces are already shaping decisions. Votes will be influenced not by argument, but by shadowed contracts and veiled threats. Jango sees the mechanism, quiet and efficient, and understands its inevitability. A corridor on the lower levels hums with activity. Footsteps echo softly, blending with the ambient noise of machinery and distant conversations. Agents pass, unaware of him, unaware of how closely he monitors timing, posture, and subtle cues. He recalls Boba, his son, and the quiet lessons of observation. The boy taught him that presence can be as instructive as action, that attention can wield influence as effectively as command. Now, those lessons extend beyond father and son, into the wider theater of the galaxy. Hidden orders flow to mercenaries, bounty hunters, and enforcers. Their contracts are explicit, yet the greater purpose remains obscured, known only to those who issue them. Jango recognizes the patterns, understanding who acts as a tool and who is free to improvise within constraints. Droids patrol in predictable sequences, unaware of context. Human operators exploit these routines, slipping through calculated gaps. Every detail matters: timing, sequence, observation, each contributing to the silent orchestration. A command center flickers with holoscreens. Officers coordinate movements without revealing the true scope of action. Ships depart, fleets maneuver, all under the illusion of routine operations. Jango notes each adjustment, cataloguing each discrepancy. A delay in one sector, a hasty move in another, a hesitation in command, all feed into a mental map he constructs with precision. He anticipates consequences, sometimes before those giving orders fully comprehend the chain of effect. Whispers of dissent float through corridors. Minor disagreements among political leaders are amplified subtly by unseen hands. Jango listens, discerning intent, loyalty, and potential vulnerability with an instinct refined through years of observation and survival. The unseen mechanisms of power extend across star systems. Agents, envoys, and messengers carry hidden orders that will shape outcomes quietly but irrevocably. Jango, moving along the margins, both observes and calculates, prepared to act when timing demands. A droid passes by, its sensors recording data, unaware of context or implication. The patterns it records will feed decisions elsewhere, unknowingly contributing to the silent orchestration. Jango notes each piece, integrating human and mechanical signals into a coherent understanding. In private chambers, leaders meet, unaware that their actions are already anticipated. The flow of hidden orders ensures that decisions, outcomes, and movements will align with objectives set long before public awareness. Jango perceives this with clarity, noting the delicate interplay of autonomy and orchestration. The galaxy, outwardly stable, is in motion beneath the surface. Every order, whispered instruction, and coded message forms a lattice of inevitability. Jango moves through it with precision, prepared to act when shadows shift into conflict. And in this quiet vigilance, he realizes that the war has already begun. Not in battles, not in speeches, not in declarations, but in silent influence, hidden orders, and subtle orchestration. The currents are set, and he is both observer and instrument in the inevitable tide. The city sleeps in fragments, pockets of shadow and light drifting through streets. Jango moves silently, blending with the architecture, a shadow among shadows. Every step is deliberate, every movement calculated, every glance precise. Targets are not always marked, yet patterns reveal intent. He observes behavior, posture, and hesitation, reading human instinct like a map. Even minor anomalies, shifted gait, distracted glance, uneven breathing, signal opportunity. A courier slips through a market, unaware of eyes following. Encrypted packages exchange hands beneath casual gestures, unnoticed by the untrained observer. Jango tracks each interaction, understanding timing, priority, and vulnerability. He recalls the lessons with Boba: observation, patience, restraint. A single error can compromise everything. A single hesitation can cost life. The boy's quiet presence taught him to measure movement, anticipate consequence, and act only when necessary. Above, patrols move systematically, droids scanning for anomalies. Human officers walk predictable paths, their schedules obvious to those who watch closely. Jango accounts for all variables, weaving through the mesh of observation and detection. A minor scuffle erupts near a docking bay. Two enforcers miscalculate, drawing attention unintentionally. Jango watches from cover, noting response times, exit routes, and the chain reaction of instinct. The hunter's mind catalogues everything. Each misstep, each delay, each reaction becomes part of the mental map he carries. No detail is too small, no movement too insignificant. A target pauses, adjusting a holster. Jango notes the timing, angle, and reach with clinical precision. He calculates approach, escape routes, and contingencies before committing to action. In a nearby alley, a shadowed figure slips past unnoticed. Jango recognizes the skill, noting differences from routine citizens. Every observer, every player, contributes to the unfolding environment, a stage on which the hunter moves unseen. The hum of engines, the flicker of streetlights, the distant clatter of machinery. These are all part of the rhythm. Jango matches his movement to it, synchronizing with chaos to remain unseen. Timing, silence, and anticipation form a trinity of efficiency that guides him. A minor alarm triggers in a distant sector. Security protocols are enacted automatically. Sensors recalibrating, droids adjusting patrols. Jango observes, noting how systems respond and where gaps remain. He remembers missions passed, contracts fulfilled, choices made, mistakes observed. Experience sharpens instinct, intuition guides action. Every movement now is informed by both memory and anticipation. A group of political envoys crosses the street. They are unaware of the currents beneath, of contracts and orders that direct their movements subtly. Jango calculates proximity, visibility, and timing, preparing for potential intervention should it become necessary. A crate slides across a loading dock, catching his attention. It is innocuous, yet its placement aligns with movement patterns of those who would exploit it. He notes it, files it mentally, a potential tool or obstacle depending on circumstance. Footsteps echo in the distance. A patrol of droids and humans converges near his location. He shifts, melts into the shadows, allowing their path to pass unnoticed, unobtrusive, yet fully aware. The city itself becomes a partner, its architecture, light, and shadows offering concealment. Every corner, doorway, and overhang is considered, every movement mapped against environment and target. Jango's presence is a ghost, calculated and disciplined, never gratuitous. A distant transmission crackles, coded and urgent. Orders ripple through networks, shifting priorities, adjusting paths. Jango accounts for these updates instantly, recalibrating his approach with silent precision. He observes a minor collision near a transport hub. By coincidence or design, it creates distraction, a small advantage he notes without immediate action. Observation is preparation. Patience is strategy. A figure pauses, scanning surroundings, unaware of scrutiny. Jango notes posture, gaze, and intent, mapping potential courses of action. The hunter's mind catalogues probabilities, outcomes, and contingencies simultaneously. The hum of engines, the flicker of neon, the muted clatter of distant machinery. These form a symphony of opportunity. Jango moves in rhythm with it, silent, precise, invisible. Every step is informed by observation, every pause calculated for maximal advantage. A transport lifts off quietly in the distance. The trajectory, timing, and potential passengers are noted, catalogued, and anticipated. Jango's awareness stretches across sectors, blending information, instinct, and calculation into cohesive foresight. The hunt is never announced. It is quiet, invisible, and disciplined. Jango exists within it, not as aggressor or observer alone, but as a force integrated with the flow of the city. Above, lights shift, patrols adjust, and the currents of hidden orders continue. Below, he moves, silent, a presence defined by patience and precision. The hunter in motion is not hurried, not reckless. He is inevitable, aware, and fully prepared. In shadows, the city's heartbeat resonates. Jango matches it, becomes part of it, observing, calculating, waiting. Every whisper, every shift, every anomaly is accounted for, a prelude to action that may never be necessary or may be decisive. And as dawn begins to filter through the fractured skyline, he pauses briefly, assessing, absorbing, anticipating. The hunter is in motion, yet poised, ready for the currents to converge. War has not yet begun overtly, but it pulses through every shadow he traces, every whisper he hears, and every silent path he moves along. The first light of Coruscant barely touches the upper towers. Below, shadows cling to alleyways, ducts, and corridors. Every movement is measured, every presence considered, as if the city itself holds its breath. Jango observes, a sentinel of unseen currents. Lines of influence extend in every direction, invisible but potent. He reads them like maps etched in motion, waiting for convergence. Orders have been delivered, contracts signed, and intentions seeded. The actors move, each unaware of the broader picture. Yet to Jango, the pieces align, subtle and inevitable. A council chamber hums with tension. Leaders argue policy, unaware of the silent negotiations shaping decisions outside their walls. Every voice, gesture, and hesitation carries weight beyond comprehension. Across multiple sectors, droids shift routines. Patrols adjust paths. Information flows between them like a silent river. Jango traces patterns, anticipating gaps, noting vulnerabilities, calculating possibilities. The city becomes a stage, the streets a network of potentialities. Even minor events, a falling crate, a distracted courier, can trigger consequences far-reaching. He catalogues these with precision, silent and meticulous. Whispers reach him from distant sectors, minor yet crucial. A smuggler delays departure, an envoy changes route, a weapon cache is relocated. Each small ripple feeds into the larger design, threading the invisible lattice of conflict. Jango pauses on a balcony, observing transit below. Ships glide along predetermined paths, unaware of observers above and below. Lines of commerce, communication, and conflict intersect, converging silently. In the shadows, an operative slips past patrols. Jango notes every movement, posture, and reaction. Timing is perfect. Nothing is left to chance. The first overt stirrings of war begin to manifest. Minor skirmishes in distant systems, unexplained power outages, and the sudden presence of armed ships hint at larger designs. Jango notes each occurrence, understanding its role in the unseen orchestration. Even the hum of the city contributes to awareness. Footsteps, engines, and distant chatter form a rhythm he moves with, blending into the cadence of the environment. Observation becomes integration, calculation becomes instinct. A coded transmission reaches him, a last confirmation of intent. Orders, contingencies, and priorities converge into a single, comprehensible map of potential. He internalizes it, adjusting plans, movements, eye on expectations. A patrol missteps near a junction. Jango observes without intervention, noting response time, coordination, and deviation from standard procedure. Each minor error is a window into broader patterns, a chance to anticipate outcomes. Political actors make decisions unaware of the forces shaping them. Contracts, instructions, and threats operate behind veils of secrecy. Jango exists between these veils, absorbing, anticipating, ready for intervention if required. A transport leaves quietly, its path intersecting with multiple threads of consequence. He notes timing, cargo, and personnel, aware that small changes can cascade unpredictably. Even unobserved events become data points, contributing to the silent orchestration. The city exhales, a rhythm of motion and quiet. Jango remains poised, shadowed, and alert. Every movement he makes is informed by observation, patience, and anticipation. Distant lights reflect on polished surfaces, creating illusions of activity. Patrols and couriers move in predictable patterns, all tracked, all mapped. Jango interprets these with clarity, understanding the hidden architecture of influence. Even chance encounters are catalogued. A brief interaction in a corridor, a dropped item, a glance exchanged. Each informs a mental map of probabilities. Jango's awareness stretches beyond the visible, encompassing unseen currents of cause and effect. As the morning deepens, small conflicts begin to flare. Skirmishes in marketplaces, brief flashes of violence, and unexpected interventions hint at forces gathering elsewhere. He notes them, integrating observation with understanding. Each step, each pause, then each silent watch is deliberate. Lines are drawn, not with bluster or blade, but with timing, patience, and insight. The invisible map of conflict takes form in his mind. The threads of influence converge slowly. Political, military, and clandestine movements align into patterns of escalation. Jango is at the center, yet never visible, guiding awareness, cataloguing consequence. Even as open war has not arrived, the prelude is unmistakable. Ships maneuver, envoys carry silent orders, and agents operate unseen. All of it is lines drawn in silence, anticipation given form. He recalls lessons from Boba: patience, observation, measured action. They echo now across a larger canvas, informing judgment and approach. Presence and perception become weapons. Timing and restraint become strategy. A small skirmish erupts near a transport hub. Jango watches, analyzing, noting response, timing, and outcome. Even in minor chaos, patterns emerge, revealing the larger design. The city remains oblivious to the orchestration above, around, and through it. Everything appears ordinary, mundane, routine. Yet beneath the surface, currents shift, alliances strain, and the first threads of war take shape. Jango steps back into shadow. Every observation catalogued, every movement anticipated. He is ready. The stage is set. The players move unknowingly toward conflict. Lines drawn in silence hold more power than overt action. The war has not begun visibly, but it pulses through every whisper, every shadow, every calculated step. Jango is both witness and instrument, poised at the nexus of inevitability. The city breathes, unknowing, as invisible lines shift, cross, and converge. And he waits, a shadow within the shadow, patient, aware, and ready. Every thread, every movement, every whisper prepares for the moment when silence ends and consequence begins. The arena trembles with anticipation. Sound floods every corner, cheering, shouting, clanging metal. Dust rises from the packed floor, carried by movement, energy, and fear. Jango moves through it, a figure of calm amid the storm. Every step measured, every breath controlled, every motion precise. The roar does not overwhelm him, it sharpens his awareness. From the upper tiers, banners flutter, catching light in fragmented flashes. Spectators lean forward, eyes wide, hands gripping railings. The energy is electric, almost tactile, pressing against the walls of the arena. Blaster fire echoes, ricochets off stone, sparks flying. Droids and combatants collide with the subtle rhythm of chaos. Jango navigates, calculating angles, distances, and reaction time. A distant figure collapses under the weight of crowd surge. He notes the fall, predicting the ripple of reaction across nearby fighters. Every microsecond counts, and he moves to occupy optimal position without attracting notice. The scent of sweat, ozone, and burning machinery hangs in the air. It is a sensory assault, yet he perceives each element distinctly, categorically. Noise is not distraction. It is data, feeding decisions already made in anticipation. The crowd's collective voice surges again. A victor is proclaimed, and for a moment, the entire arena pulses with unified sound. Jango adjusts his stance, attuning to shifts in the environment that others cannot detect. Combatants clash near the center, sabers igniting in brilliant arcs. Metal clashes, sparks scatter. Shi's and bodies, weave in patterns that are violent yet predictable. He notes each trajectory, calculating force, angle, and potential counteraction. A young soldier trips over debris, drawing fire unintentionally. The line of attackers diverts, momentarily breaking formation. Jango observes without haste, cataloging, understanding, yet remaining unseen. Above him, droids hover, monitoring, scanning, feeding information. Their presence is both constraint and opportunity. Every path can be blocked or freed depending on movement. He moves like liquid through these constraints, blending, disappearing, reappearing. The roar shifts as a new combatant enters. Heavier armor, deliberate movement. Spectators recognize skill, gasping, cheering, reacting in anticipation of spectacle. Jango integrates the newcomer into his mental map, denoting potential threats, avenues, and timing. The arena floor vibrates with momentum. Feet pound in rhythm with chaos. Weapons collide in synchronous disorder. Even amid overwhelming noise, Jango hears subtle indicators. The tension in joints, the timing of footfalls, the cadence of breath. A projectile arcs through space, narrowly missing a soldier. Jango notes its trajectory, its velocity, the reaction it triggers. Every displacement, every deflection, becomes part of the moving lattice of the battlefield. Crowd noise swells again, nearly drowning out smaller sounds. Jango tunes out the superfluous, focusing on critical cues: movement, intention, subtle hesitation. It is a selective hearing, a sculpting of attention in a maelstrom of sensory input. A minor skirmish erupts at the edge of the arena. Weapons fire, bodies collide, sparks scatter. He observes, predicting consequences, ready to act, but patient, allowing chaos to define patterns. The hum of energy weapons cuts through the air. Saber arcs illuminate faces in sudden flashes, revealing fear, resolve, and desperation. Jango reads expressions in microsecond intervals, calculating likelihoods, anticipating response. Above, a platform trembles under weight, precarious yet unnoticed by the crowd. A small slip could cascade into significant disruption. He marks it mentally, adjusting path and focus to account for environmental variables. A droid patrol changes course, scanning systematically. Its sensors sweep predictable arcs, blind to nuanced anomalies. Jango positions himself in shadows, timing movement with precision, exploiting predictable oversight. The center of the arena erupts into concentrated chaos. Multiple combatants collide simultaneously, body and weapon intersecting in violent choreography. He moves along the perimeter, reading energy, anticipating openings, calculating safe zones. Sparks scatter from repeated contact, bouncing off armor, illuminating dust particles. Noise and light distort spatial perception, yet he accounts for both seamlessly. Every reflection, every clatter, becomes part of the data stream guiding him. A sudden cheer rises from a section of the crowd. It indicates a notable strike, a decisive action, a shift in momentum. Jango interprets it instantly, understanding influence, psychological impact, and environmental response. The smell of scorched metal and ozone intensifies. Equipment overheats, cables arc, systems flicker. He notes malfunctioning areas, potential hazards, and opportunities to maneuver unimpeded. Bodies move with kinetic rhythm, intentionally and unintentionally. The crowd reacts, amplifying minor events into dramatic spectacle. Jango observes, recognizing pattern, consequence, and the subtle unfolding of control and chaos. An explosion detonates near a flank, throwing debris into air. Jango anticipates trajectory, timing, and response, adjusting paths silently. Chaos becomes map. Disorder becomes coordinate system. Noise becomes signal. The arena's floor groans under movement, vibrations running through stone. Footfalls echo unpredictably, yet he integrates them into the lattice of observation. Every vibration, every tremor, every subtle displacement informs choice. A minor fighter attempts to flank, she cutting across the arena unnoticed. Jango notes speed, trajectory, and potential impact on broader conflict. Patience guides response, ensuring action occurs only at optimal moment. Spectators scream and shout, a tidal wave of sound, overwhelming and electrifying. He filters selectively, hearing what is necessary, ignoring distraction. Every cheer, gasp, and shout becomes contextual data for prediction. At the edge of perception, a slight shift in lighting catches his attention. It is fleeting, nearly imperceptible, yet he integrates it into his spatial awareness. Environmental cues guide movement, informing both safety and strategic positioning. Blaster fire continues, arcs of energy painting trajectories through dust and light. Jango moves deliberately, predicting outcome of each engagement. Control is subtle, refined, and invisible amid chaos. Then a ripple of awareness. Something unexpected disrupts flow. A single action outside prediction shifts attention, alters the map of engagement. Even Jango, master of anticipation, feels the subtle impact, signaling a moment of change. The roar continues, louder than ever. Jango, silent and precise, senses the first fracture in controlled observation. Amid the noise, the calculated world he navigates faces disruption, subtle but undeniable. And in that instant, everything poised for clarity becomes uncertain. The battle of Geonosis is no longer simply patterns and anticipation. It is a tide of unpredictable consequence. He adjusts, recalibrates, and prepares to act, fully aware that control has been momentarily challenged. The clash of steel ignites the arena. Sparks fly from lightsabers colliding, illuminating dust and sweat in fleeting flashes. Blades carve air, slicing through both anticipation and chaos alike. Jango maneuvers along the periphery, reading trajectories, gauging speed, anticipating strikes. Every movement is deliberate, every breath timed, every step calculated. Noise does not dominate, it informs, sharpens, clarifies. Combatants collide in violent choreography, bodies twisting, blocking, striking. The rhythm is relentless, yet Jango discerns the subtext beneath each motion. Intentions are revealed in microseconds. The shift of weight, the tilt of a head, a hand tightening on a weapon. A clone falls under a sweeping strike. The crowd gasps, reacting before understanding. Jango notes the arc, the angle, the force, storing it in mental grids for future calculation. Above, droids hover, scanning, shooting, redirecting fire. Their blasters draw arcs across the arena, lighting the chaos like staccato lightning. He anticipates each bolt, weaving through paths, exploiting gaps between targeting cycles. The floor trembles as explosions scatter debris, throwing fighters off balance. Jango steps into each void with precision, advancing, retreating, moving with the rhythm of chaos. Every displacement, every shift, becomes part of the unfolding map he inhabits silently. A Jedi and a Separatist clash in the center, blades igniting, energy flashing in arcs. They spin, parry, strike, and step with disciplined fury. Jango observes the minutiae, reading micro-tells, anticipating each advance, each retreat. The roar of the crowd rises, rising faster than movement, faster than clash. Screams, cheers, gasps, an audible storm superimposed over steel and fire. He filters it, isolating the cues that matter. discarding what is merely amplification. A blaster bolt ricochets off stone, narrowly missing a soldier. Another folds under the impact, throwing off the flow of nearby combatants. Jango notes the disruption, predicts the response, positions accordingly. Sparks cascade from a saber clash, igniting dust motes in dazzling flashes. Muscles tense, reflexes peak, and every action is synchronized to chaotic precision. He moves like a shadow through this light, an unseen force threading the chaos. Nearby, a flamethrower ignites, scattering smoke and heat. The smell of ozone and burning metal cuts through the arena's air. Jango adapts instantly, mapping smoke columns, anticipating visibility gaps, exploiting concealment. A droid soldier swings a vibroblade at a clone. Timing is off. Momentum misaligned. Jango notes the misstep, calculating both threat and opportunity. The center is a whirlwind. Saber strikes, blaster fire, explosions, falling bodies. Yet within this maelstrom, patterns emerge. Each motion carries information. Each engagement reveals vulnerabilities. Jango observes a minor combatant attempting to flank. Speed, posture, angle. He predicts trajectory and potential impact on surrounding engagements. He weaves silently, aligning himself with optimal observation points. A saber arcs dangerously close. The wielder's intention is clear in micro-gestures, yet unnoticed by the target. Jango calculates distance, angle, and time, noting potential intervention points. The arena vibrates with energy. Footfalls, weapon strikes, explosions, collective gasps. Even the architecture contributes. Walls echo, floors shift under pressure. He internalizes these variables, integrating them into movement, timing, and perception. A blast detonates a platform above, debris scattering unpredictably. Combatants scramble, reaction patterns breaking under chaos. Jango tracks every shift, every moment, anticipating ripple effects. Sparks illuminate a figure, armor scratched, lightsaber clashing, body moving with practiced aggression. The opponent's rhythm is discernible, yet chaotic, unpredictable. Jango aligns himself, exploiting micro-pauses, subtle hesitation, minuscule imbalance. He notes sound as much as motion. The clatter of dropped weapons, the shuffle of boots on stone, the creak of strained armor, all cues for prediction. Even amidst overwhelming noise, clarity persists. Precise and deliberate, a sudden swing sends an opponent flying into a barrier. The impact reverberates, displacing others nearby. Jango accounts for the new variables, adjusting movement, maintaining rhythm with chaos. Blasters fire indiscriminately, arcs of red and blue lighting the dust-filled air. Bodies collide and ricochet unpredictably. Jango positions himself between flashes, invisible yet present, perceiving paths invisible to the untrained eye. Combatants' energy pulses like a waveform. Intentions crest, trough, ripple, and dissipate, moment to moment. Jango reads this waveform with uncanny precision, synchronizing movement, timing, and choice. A Jedi deflects blaster bolts toward another, redirecting trajectory mid-flight. Momentum shifts. Chaos realigns. Jango adapts, recalibrates, continuing silent observation while remaining unobserved. The roar of the crowd masks everything, yet conveys subtle meaning. A cheer signals triumph, a gasp indicates surprise. Even this noise becomes data, part of the intricate lattice of the arena. A minor explosion throws sand into eyes, momentarily blinding participants. Jango navigates through obscured lines of sight, calculating velocity, trajectory, and reaction patterns. Every hazard, every opening, every micro-interval is accounted for. Bodies move in unpredictable arcs, yet under chaos, patterns emerge. Blades meet with sparks, fists collide with armor. Droids fire unerringly. Jango threads through these arcs like a living vector, precise, unseen, unstoppable. A subtle shift, a Jedi spins toward an opponent previously unnoticed. Timing is fractionally off, but sufficient to create new dynamics. Jango anticipates, adjusts, and remains in silent control of observation. The arena vibrates, alive with sound, motion, and energy. Blades flash, fire arcs, and bodies weave in kinetic symphony. Every clash is data, every pause is opportunity, every breath is measured. Then a single anomaly, a miscalculated movement, a tiny deviation. It breaks pattern, fractures predictability. Jango senses it instantly, muscles coiling, perception narrowing, preparation adjusting. Amid the chaos, his calm becomes its own force. Noise, motion, violence, all serve as instruments, each note meticulously observed. Precision is not control of others. It is mastery of self, of timing, of anticipation. The arena is alive, a storm of light, sound, and impact. Yet within it, Jango remains the constant, silent, exact, focused. Every flash, every clash, every scream contributes to the unfolding calculation. He moves, unseen, through the heart of chaos. Patterns converge, diverge, and reform. Amid the blades and chaos, he exists as both participant and observer, poised for the moment when instinct must intervene. The arena swells with uncontrolled movement. Bodies collide, weapons flash, and the crowd's roar surges like a living tide. Every step, every swing, every reaction is magnified, amplified, unpredictable. Jango moves through it all with methodical grace. Where others panic, he calculates. Where chaos reigns, he finds structure. A blast erupts near the flank, scattering combatants and sending debris airborne. He anticipates the arc of each fragment, positioning himself with exactitude. Timing is everything. A fraction of a second can mean survival or obliteration. A clone staggers under fire. Jango observes, evaluates, calculates the safest trajectory for both observation and intervention. Every microsecond carries potential consequence, and he accounts for each with cold efficiency. Sparks rain from a saber clash, catching the dust in fiery streaks. Light, shadow, reflection, all components of his awareness. He threads between them, invisible yet present, weaving a path only he can perceive. A separatist droid lunges at a Jedi, momentum misaligned, creating a temporary opening. Jango registers the microshift instantly. Reaction is stored, not acted upon until the optimal instant. The crowd is a constant, deafening force. Cheer, gasp, scream. They signal information about timing, location, and outcome. Uneven noise becomes strategic data, filtered by trained perception. A Jedi spins, deflecting blaster bolts in arcs. Energy ricochets, strikes a nearby droid, sending it staggering. Jango integrates every displacement into the lattice of movement, noting patterns, anticipating next shifts. He moves past a cluster of fallen combatants. Footsteps, armor collisions, and displaced dust inform him more than sight alone. Panic radiates outward, predictable in its intensity, yet varied in direction. The arena trembles under collective motion. Every strike, every dodge, every step sends vibrations through stone. Jango senses these as if tactile, integrating the arena itself into his calculations. A blaster discharges from unexpected angle, ricocheting unpredictably. He notes the energy arc, body orientation, trajectory, and impact zone. A microsecond adjustment ensures safe passage through the lethal lattice. Combatants' bodies twist, fall, and rise in patterns of instinctual survival. Jango watches the convergence of chaos and control, noticing deviations imperceptible to others. Each subtle misalignment is potential leverage, opportunity, or hazard. Sparks illuminate faces contorted in fear or aggression. Eyes widen, hands tighten, muscles coil. He interprets every micro-expression, predicting movements before they occur. A small droid collapses near a corner, scattering debris into a nearby fighter. The ripple affects alignment, shifting balance for several combatants. Jango adjusts silently, maintaining optimal observation and safe spacing. Above, hovering gunships track movement, blasters firing. Each shot is a controlled hazard, patterns predictable, but lethal. He times movement precisely to remain unscathed, threading through arcs of fire with instinct honed by experience. A Jedi duels a Sith, energy crackling in arcs. Their movements are rapid, precise, yet in moments, micro-hesitations reveal subtle openings. Jango notes these, calculating timing and trajectory, storing potential action for later. The floor vibrates violently as an explosion throws bodies into chaos. Dust clouds obscure vision, heat and smoke distort perception. Jango moves as if part of the storm itself, steps measured, eyes acute, senses wide. A minor combatant falters under a misaligned strike. The ripple propagates, others stumble, redirect, react. Jango integrates, recalibrates, maintains composure as others flinch. Blades clash with sparks and smoke, bodies interweave in kinetic chaos. He threads between them, invisible, precise, a silent observer of patterns and breaks in rhythm. Every action, every pause, every moment of panic is a component in a larger calculation. Noise pulses, thunders, and vibrates, yet clarity persists. A cheer indicates a strike, a gasp signals misstep, a shout predicts reaction. Even chaos is patterned if observed correctly. Jango reads it like a manuscript. A droid swings at a soldier, miscalculating momentum. Impact sends both into new trajectories, disrupting micro-patterns. He registers the shift, adjusts, continues movement without haste or error. Sparks illuminate armor, weapons, and dust motes. Motion freezes momentarily in flashes of light, each frame a data point. Jango threads through these frozen instances, always calculating, never reactive without purpose. A blast detonates near a corner, sending dust, shrapnel, and bodies airborne. Timing, angle, trajectory, all factors processed instantly. Every potential threat neutralized preemptively through observation and anticipation. The arena shifts, alive with uncontrolled motion. Every participant's instinct, panic, and aggression contributes to the maelstrom. Jango moves like a vector of calm, threading order through chaos. Combatants stagger, dodge, strike, fall, and rise in unpredictable sequences. He observes each, integrates outcomes into predictive models, maintains readiness for the unforeseen. Precision is his weapon, anticipation his shield. A minor droid fires unexpectedly, projectile ricocheting near another. The crowd roars, amplifying the chaos. Jango filters, isolates, calculates, movement dictated by probability and timing. Never panic. Sparks, fire, and energy arcs illuminate the chaos. Even amid disarray, movement and timing are structured, predictable if one understands the patterns. He moves through both controlled chaos and random disruptions, invisible, precise, deliberate, then a shift, a single variable outside expected patterns, an anomaly in motion, timing, or intention. It fractures predictability, hints at unforeseen consequences. Jango pauses only fractionally, recalibrating. Observation, calculation, adaptation. Instinct refined into deliberate anticipation. Even amid panic, he moves with unbroken clarity. The roar of the crowd, the clash of blades, the explosion of fire, everything is data. Every step, glance, motion, and breath is catalogued, stored, interpreted. He threads through panic, unflinching, untouchable, the embodiment of precise control. And in this moment, the arena becomes a map. Chaos becomes coordinate system. Noise becomes signal. Jango navigates the lattice of violence with perfect awareness. Precision amid panic is not survival. It is mastery. The arena is littered with bodies, fallen weapons, and scorched stone. The roar of the crowd has dulled to murmurs, fragmented shouts, and the occasional scream. Chaos recedes like a tide, leaving aftermath and uncertainty in its wake. Jango pauses mid-step, scanning the arena with calculated detachment. Every movement, every strike, every ripple of panic has left traces. Patterns linger, revealing what chaos concealed. Weakness, strength, survival. Smoke curls upward, softening jagged edges of shattered platforms. The smell of ozone, sweat, and scorched metal hangs thick. Jango inhales, senses attuned to minute shifts, each sound and shadow carrying meaning. A Jedi staggers across the arena, blade ignited, scanning for threat. Blaster fire has ceased, replaced by heavy breathing and measured motion. The battlefield's rhythm has changed. Unpredictability remains, but the tide of panic has ebbed. Nearby, droids lie twisted, dismantled by sabers or miscalculated shots. Some still twitch, circuits sparking intermittently. Jango notes the positions, calculating the lingering danger zones, moving without distraction. Fires burn across the stone floors, embers drifting on hot air currents. Bodies of clones and separatists lie interspersed, some motionless, some stirring. He moves among them, observations silent, precise, unbroken. A flash of movement draws his attention. A Jedi moves toward the exit. Timing, angle, distance, all recorded instantly. Jango shifts accordingly, positioning without exposing himself, anticipation guiding each step. The crowd's energy continues to pulse faintly, subdued yet restless. Noise now signals nothing immediate, yet he interprets each murmur as potential data. The ebb of panic is deceptive. Residual chaos lingers in pockets, unpredictable and dangerous. Debris litters the arena's corners, broken columns, shattered walls, charred metal. Each obstacle is a potential hazard or advantage. Jango moves along optimal paths, leveraging cover while maintaining line of sight on threats. A separatist droid stirs, its targeting system rebooting, eyes glowing intermittently. He notes its orientation, timing, and potential trajectory. Each micro-assessment feeds into a larger map of post-battle movement. Bodies shift unpredictably. Some crawl, some stagger, some collapse entirely. The aftermath is a kinetic puzzle, each movement influencing the rest. Jango threads through, silent and aware, unaffected by the horror or the debris. A distant explosion shakes the arena again, though minor compared to the main battle. Rubble falls, dust rises, and echoes distort perception. He recalibrates, noting the shifts in balance, predicting how they might cascade. The air is thick with tension, silence punctuated by occasional screams or collapsing structures. Jango perceives patterns in the irregularities, mapping the residual threats in real time. Every movement remains intentional, every pause calculated. A Jedi crouches near a fallen platform, scanning for enemies. The subtle tilt of their head, the way their blade arcs, each micro-movement communicates intent. Jango absorbs it all, observing, noting, never interfering yet entirely aware. A clone drags a wounded comrade, stumbling along fractured stone. The ripple of motion spreads unpredictably, influencing others nearby. He calculates trajectories, distances, and potential outcomes in fluid seconds. Smoke thickens near one corner, partially obscuring vision. Within the haze, he notes subtle shifts. Figures moving, gestures flickering, micro-reactions. Even obscured chaos is data when observed with trained focus. A sudden metallic clang draws his attention. A falling weapon from above. Trajectory is slightly off. It spins unpredictably before hitting the ground. He accounts for potential hazard, adjusts stance, and moves through the zone unscathed. The arena's structure is compromised. Platforms sag, walls crack, and debris shifts with every motion. Jango perceives each instability, internalizing it into spatial awareness. Survival is no longer about active combat. It is about anticipation, precision, and positioning. The remaining combatants regroup in small clusters, some exhausted, some alert. Noise is low, but intent palpable. Each step, glance, and movement carries meaning, and Jango reads them all with unerring clarity. A distant explosion sends vibrations through the stone floor. Debris rattles, dust rises, and small fires flare. He observes micro-shifts caused by the secondary detonation, predicting chain effects across the arena. Bodies of clones and droids form a lattice of motionless figures. Even here, subtle motions, breathing, twitching, shifting weight, reveal opportunity or hazard. He navigates, constantly adjusting, silent, precise, and deliberate. A Jedi approaches a group of fallen droids. Their stance, micro-adjustments, and breathing indicate caution, readiness, and potential aggression. Jango notes, integrates, but does not engage. Observation alone is enough. Smoke clears slightly, revealing the shattered calm of the battlefield. The pattern of chaos is now a lattice of residual energy, movement, and anticipation. Jango threads through this lattice, calm, measured, unbroken by remaining threats. The crowd's murmurs fade, leaving only ambient sound, groans, falling debris, distant alarms. Each is noted, categorized, and interpreted as part of the evolving environment. Even in reduced chaos, he perceives instability where others see mere aftermath. Sparks from ignited metal, scattered across the stone, illuminate subtle motions. Debris shifts as figures move, micro-adjustments ripple through the battlefield. Jango moves with precise awareness, threading paths that keep him in control of exposure and timing. A final sweep reveals minor threats. A droid still operational, a Jedi checking surroundings, a clone repositioning. Each movement is potential danger, each reaction a variable in a complex map. He accounts for all, integrating observation into an unbroken mental lattice. The arena's tension is palpable, yet contained. The storm has passed, the calm is shattered but present. Jango remains a constant within this fractured stillness, silent, exact, in control of self and space. Amid the ruins, embers, and dust, he steps forward, moving through chaos now settled. Every motion, every glance, every breath is deliberate. The battlefield is a map, the chaos a guide, and he, the solitary master of precise navigation. The shattered calm lingers, heavy with unspoken consequences. Noise is reduced, yet the memory of it resonates, shaping perception and awareness. Jango walks through it all, untouched by panic, impervious to disorder, focused entirely on observation and calculated motion. Dust drifts lazily through the broken arena, suspended in faint shafts of light. The air is still, yet carries the memory of motion, of chaos just past. Shadows cling to jagged edges of stone, stretching long over scorched ground. Bodies lie scattered, motionless, frozen in micro moments of panic, reaction, or defeat. Some are armored, others scorched, others barely recognizable beneath layers of debris. Each tells a story that Jango reads without words, passing threat, survival, and consequence alike. A helmet lies on cracked stone, displaced from its owner. Its visor reflects light in fragmented glimmers, catching dust in quiet motion. Jango pauses, noting its orientation, its subtle imperfections, the story it silently conveys. The arena is empty now. Noise has receded to distant echoes, faint murmurs, the occasional creak of settling debris. Yet even in stillness, there is awareness, the lingering pulse of battle. He moves slowly, deliberately, threading through the remnants of combat. Every step is measured, weighted with observation, with caution. Even without active threats, he treats the environment as alive, fluid, and potentially dangerous. Fragments of weaponry glint among rubble, shattered lightsabers, scorched blasters, bent armor plates. Each fragment is a record of precision, error, and survival. Jango catalogues it all silently, mapping the battlefield in his mind, anticipating patterns, outcomes, and residual hazards. A faint shadow shifts along a distant platform. He registers the movement, notes the angle, timing, and potential consequence. Even the smallest shift matters. In environments like this, just imperceptible factors can alter everything. Dust swirls around a collapsed wall, sunlight catching particles in tiny drifting columns. The helmet rests nearby, unclaimed, a monument to what has occurred without explanation. Its presence anchors the scene, a reminder of inevitability woven into aftermath. Jango's gaze moves beyond immediate surroundings. He sees the pattern of destruction, the arcs of chaos, and the micro ripples of consequence radiating outward. Memory of movement is as important as observation. He reconstructs each sequence with internal precision. Faint markings in the stone, scuffs, dents, cracks, tell the story of motion, force, and collision. He interprets them as effortlessly as breathing, linking cause to effect across space and time. Even silence has texture here, and Jango is attuned to its nuances. The arena seems endless, yet each section carries detail, purpose, and history. Bodies of combatants, droids, and clones form invisible vectors, maps of what happened, where momentum shifted, and how survival was carved from chaos. Jango moves with a balance of detachment and focus, neither emotionless nor distracted. A glint catches his eye, a shard of metal, scorched and twisted. Its trajectory suggests a strike narrowly avoided, a collision averted, a life preserved by a fraction of timing. He notes it, integrates it into the mental lattice of the battlefield. Footsteps echo faintly elsewhere, distant yet deliberate. Jango perceives them, calculates distance, speed, potential identity. Every sound is data, every echo a clue to what remains unseen. Dust settles unevenly across broken stone, forming patterns from the passage of combatants. Each step, slide, and stumble leaves traceable evidence. He reads these traces as one would read a map: direction, intent, timing, consequence. A collapsed support beam forms a small archway, partially obscuring the helmet. Light strikes the metal surface in fragmented angles, creating a shifting prism of reflection. The visual distortion is irrelevant. He interprets orientation, displacement, and subtle imperfections instantly. The aftermath is complete, yet still dynamic. Shifts in debris, settling dust, and the occasional tremor from distant explosions maintain a pulse within stillness. Jango moves within this rhythm, aligning every step with observation, anticipation, and calculation. The helmet, displaced yet intact, becomes a focal point. It embodies both consequence and inevitability, a silent witness to what unfolded. He bends slightly, noting its precise position, angle, and orientation relative to surrounding debris. Beyond immediate observation, he tracks patterns of absence, where combatants should be, where bodies are missing, what shadows imply. Even gaps tell a story, outlining motion and intent, highlighting what is present and what is lost. Ambient sound is minimal: distant wind, faint settling debris, intermittent groans of movement. He interprets volume, frequency, and variation as indicators of residual threat, environment stability, and temporal passage. A shard of a blaster hilt protrudes from rubble, angled almost imperceptibly toward the ground. The distortion of heat and light creates optical illusion, yet he sees true orientation, true trajectory. Precision perception guides him through the wreckage, step by deliberate step. Silence finally reaches its apex. No movement, no sound, no immediate threat. Only observation, awareness, and the lingering narrative of motion past. The arena is still, but the memory of combat remains etched in every surface, shadow, and particle. Jango walks through it methodically, silently, cataloguing every detail. Whispers among ruins speak louder than screams once did. And in that silence, the weight of consequence settles. The helmet remains, a solitary artifact of what has passed. Its presence, quiet and immutable, mirrors the inevitability of events yet to be fully understood. The arena is quiet now, yet the air feels heavy, laden with unseen pressure. Shadows stretch across fractured stone, pulled long by the low angle of light. Every fissure, every scarred surface carries memory, as if the battlefield itself remembers. Jango steps carefully, boots scraping lightly against scorched stone. Movement is measured, deliberate, each footfall an exercise in awareness. He senses the weight of what has transpired, not just the bodies, but the consequence of every choice, every strike, every miscalculation. Dust swirls in faint eddies around twisted metal and broken supports. The remnants of combat form a silent tapestry of cause and effect. Each fragment of debris, each dent in stone, tells a story he reads without hesitation. A distant echo drifts from the far side of the arena, a shifting stone, perhaps, or a collapsing beam. Jango turns, not startled, but responsive. His eyes follow patterns invisible to untrained observers, triangulating potential motion, assessing threats, predicting outcomes. The helmet remains where it fell, undisturbed. It seems almost to radiate the weight of absence, of inevitable consequence. Jango studies it, measuring not just the object, but its relation to the space around it, the unseen currents of energy lingering in the air. Small figures move in the distance, clones, survivors, scavengers of chaos. Each has a rhythm, a pattern of motion that intersects with others in micro ways. Jango calculates trajectories, timings, potential collisions, but does not interfere. Observation alone is enough. Faint gusts of wind carry the smell of burnt ozone, scorched stone, and faint traces of blood. The sensory weight presses, a reminder that action leaves residue beyond the physical. Even in stillness, consequences echo, lingering in space, waiting to be noticed. He steps over a fractured droid chassis, noting its orientation, the subtle bends in its structure. Each deformation speaks of force applied, resistance met, failure avoided or embraced. In this way, Jango reads the battlefield as a living entity, dynamic despite the absence of life. A shard of reflective metal catches his gaze, angled perfectly to catch the dim sunlight. He observes the reflection, noting what it reveals of space, movement, and trajectory beyond his immediate line of sight. Every reflection, shadow, and subtle distortion becomes data, feeding his unspoken understanding of the arena. The arena itself feels oppressive now, as though the stone carries residual memory. Each step echoes differently, depending on surface, distance, and surrounding structure. Jango notices patterns in the echoes, calibrating awareness with subtle shifts in resonance. A collapsed column juts at an angle, a potential hazard or a vantage point. He moves past, aware of how minor imperfections in balance or pressure might trigger unexpected consequences. Even still, he navigates as if guided by instinct, sharpened into precision. Dust settles unevenly over fallen bodies, debris, and scorched equipment. The weight of shadow and stillness carries more meaning than noise ever did. Every element suggests prior motion, and Jango reconstructs the past in real time, mapping it internally. Shifts in light and shadow mark changes in the environment. Clouds drifting, sun tilting, dust motes moving. Each subtle change influences perception, depth, and hazard. He observes without reacting, but his mind integrates every variable simultaneously. The helmet remains silent, central, a focal point of observation and reflection. It embodies consequence, inevitability, and the residue of action. Jango approaches it briefly, measuring distance, orientation, and the symbolic weight it carries within the emptied arena. Nearby, faint movement signals life. Clones dragging wounded, droids shuffling, distant figures repositioning. He notes speed, trajectory, posture, and intent. Every detail adds layers to the map of residual consequence, a lattice of motion overlaid on stillness. Ambient sound is minimal, settling dust, occasional groans, and the faint hum of distant energy sources. Each micro sound communicates subtle information, guiding observation, confirming predictions. The weight of shadows is not absence, it is presence of consequence, lingering, almost tactile. Small fires burn in scattered debris, casting flickering illumination. The irregular light creates shifting shadows, altering perception, testing awareness. Jango accounts for each movement of light, each play of shadow, adjusting positioning instinctively. The arena stretches outward, boundaries obscured by dust and distance. Jango perceives depth, structure, and hidden hazards simultaneously. The battlefield is a silent organism, every element part of an intricate lattice of residual influence. He pauses near a collapsed wall, watching the pattern of light across the rubble. Time seems slowed, stretched, compressed. Even in stillness, every particle, every trace, every shadow speaks of what has passed and what is yet unresolved. The weight of shadows is heavier than noise, more informative than chaos. In the absence of combat, clarity emerges, revealing patterns previously hidden beneath confusion. Jango absorbs it, threading understanding into instinct, awareness into anticipation. The helmet, dust-covered and still, becomes the axis of his observation. Every surrounding shadow, every shifted stone, every imperceptible movement aligns against it. It is more than an object. It is the embodiment of consequence, inevitability, and the silent echo of violence past. The air carries a faint tremor, as if the battlefield remembers the heat and motion of fire. Jango steps forward, recalling moments that unfolded faster than thought, faster than perception. Each flash, each strike, each movement plays backward in his mind, precise, inevitable. He sees Mace Windu first, not in full, but fragments. The blade arcs, its motion frozen in memory. The angle of approach, the weight behind the strike, the subtle adjustments. Everything is catalogued, analyzed, internalized. Dust shifts across scorched stone, revealing footprints, partial, interrupted. Each step reconstructs a chain of motion, a causal line through chaos. Jango recalls how he moved, how he adjusted, how every muscle remembered instinctively what the mind could not fully articulate. Explosions leave faint scars in memory, as if the echoes themselves are tangible. Jango senses the heat that never reached him, the force that never struck directly. He reconstructs every blast in reverse, noting trajectories, energy dispersal, and timing. The arena seems alive in recollection, every fragment of metal, every shattered support, every fallen droid contributing to a network of motion. Jango moves mentally through it, tracing paths of combatants, arcs of projectiles, and the ripple of energy through empty space. Nothing is random. Everything obeys unseen laws of momentum, timing, and consequence. He remembers the moment of impact with clarity, an instant that felt suspended between possibility and inevitability. The strike approached, met resistance, recoiled, and created opportunity. Even in memory, there is weight, a tactile sense of force and counterforce. Dust and debris shift subtly under his feet, small reminders of the real terrain beneath observation. He steps around fragments of battle as if tracing invisible vectors, each movement echoing lessons learned seconds ago. Every detail is significant. The tilt of a fallen beam, the angle of a dented wall, the reflection of light off a scattered shard. The flash of saber arcs illuminates his recollection like staccato beats of sound and motion. Each strike leaves an imprint not just in memory, but in perception, timing, and anticipation. He recalls the precise moment he pivoted, countered, or withdrew. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is overlooked. The sounds of combat are reconstructed internally. Clash, hum, explosion, distant shouts. They overlap, layer, and resolve in the theatre of mind with exact timing. Jango experiences them in reverse and forward simultaneously, threading understanding through perception and memory. Mace Windu's presence is overwhelming, commanding, yet each fragment reveals vulnerability, imperfection, a point of entry. Jango notes each subtle hesitation, each micro-adjustment, each imperceptible weight shift. Even in recollection, precision guides action. In anticipation, guides response. Smoke hangs in memory, swirling unnaturally as if time itself bends in reflection. Every flicker reveals movement, every curl indicates heat, force, or collision. He reads patterns in smoke and light as effortlessly as breathing. The duel emerges fully in reconstruction, yet never as spectacle, always as inevitability. Each movement leads naturally to the next. Each strike echoes a prior choice. Each parry results from countless micro-decisions. Time becomes malleable, compressed, and expanded simultaneously. Fragments of bodies, armor, and debris return in memory, not as isolated objects, but as part of a dynamic system. Every collision, misstep, and redirection contributes to the overall pattern of cause and consequence. Jango navigates these mental constructs with unerring precision, she balancing observation with instinct. He recalls the point of near impact, blaster discharged, lightsaber swung, muscles tensed, reflexes fired. Every microsecond mattered. Every slight misalignment could have been fatal. Memory preserves it with perfect clarity, yet layered with the inevitable haze of hindsight. The arena, though empty, feels full again, filled with echoes, movement, and residual energy. Jango senses not just motion, but intention, timing, and the unseen forces that guided each strike. Recollection transforms the battlefield into a living map, a complex lattice of action, reaction, and consequence. Even after reconstructing every motion, the sense of inevitability lingers. The duel feels less like a fight and more like a preordained sequence, a chain of events that could not have unfolded differently. Each memory carries weight, not just of action, but of consequence and understanding. Jango stands amid this mental reconstruction, aware of the precise alignment of force, movement, and intention. The arena exists simultaneously as past, present, and observation, a living memory. Every element, every shadow, every shard of debris contributes to the story unfolding in recollection. The helmet lies untouched, central in the arena, a monument to absence and consequence. Light strikes it at an angle, reflecting faintly, scattering into fractured patterns across the dusted stone. Its presence commands attention without demanding it, quiet yet undeniably central. Jango steps closer, measuring distance, orientation, and the subtle shift of air around it. Every particle of dust that rises tells a story of prior motion. Every shadow cast reveals a hidden vector, a memory of collision and force. He kneels briefly, studying it, not as a symbol, but as data. Every dent, every scratch, every imperfection narrates what happened without words. Jango interprets them precisely, reconstructing events as if reading a map etched into metal. Silence dominates, yet it is heavy with sound, the echo of blades, the hum of energy, the clash of bodies. Even without hearing, he feels it in residual vibrations through the ground. The arena retains motion in memory, and Jango perceives it as clearly as the eye perceives light. A faint gust stirs dust across the helmet, softening edges, yet accentuating depth. He observes the flow, noting its direction, weight, and impact on the surrounding environment. Even in stillness, the battlefield communicates, revealing subtle consequences of every past decision. Jango's reflection appears faintly in the visor, fragmented and distorted. He studies it, not vanity, but calculation. Every angle reveals spatial relationships, potential hazards, unseen influences, and lines of sight once exploited. Shadows stretch and converge, shifting subtly as light moves across broken structures. Each subtle change carries information, balance, potential risk, altered perception. He traces them, mentally mapping how light and shadow might have influenced motion or perception during conflict. Nearby, faint noises of scavengers and survivors underscore the silence. Jango notes rhythm, direction, and speed, integrating them seamlessly into his ongoing assessment. The arena is no longer just a place. It is a system, alive in consequence and memory. He crouches slightly, observing fine scratches along the surface of the helmet. The scratches reveal angles of deflection, points of impact, and the subtle dance of timing during the duel. Each imperfection becomes a layer of understanding, a record of inevitability. A faint shimmer of light across polished metal recalls fleeting movements, gestures, and micro-adjustments. Jango absorbs every reflection, every distortion, translating them into a complete map of the battle's flow. Memory and observation intertwine, dissolving distinctions between what was, what is, and what is perceived. He rises, pacing around the helmet, measuring trajectories of prior and potential motion. The arena feels constrained yet expansive, finite yet infinite. Every surface, every angle, every shadow participates in the narrative of consequence. Dust motes drift in shifting light, tiny indicators of airflow, weight distribution, and subtle residual energy. Jango watches them, tracing invisible currents, reconstructing what once moved the atmosphere itself. Even the smallest movement carries data, informing understanding, guiding reflection. The helmet is more than object. It is focal point, repository, silent witness. It marks absence, inevitability, and the residual gravity of action. Each angle, each dent, each shadow becomes a sentence in an unspoken narrative. Jango steps back, eyes scanning the arena, integrating observation, memory, and instinct. The past is visible, tangible, and precise in its unfolding. Even in silence, the weight of decisions resonates, a lattice of cause and effect surrounding him. He kneels once more, fingertips hovering above the surface, honor respecting what the helmet signifies. It is a monument, a record, a reminder that action leaves trace beyond immediate perception. The arena is no longer just stone and metal. It is history itself, layered, interpreted, and unyielding. Shadows deepen as light tilts toward the horizon, stretching the space, elongating reflection. Jango watches, aware that each shift continues to reveal, to teach, to inform. Even in stillness, knowledge accumulates, subtle and persistent. The helmet remains, central, untouched, as if guarding its own truth. Jango steps away slowly, integrating understanding, observation, and memory into a coherent awareness. Every movement, every breath, every slight shift becomes part of the continuing narrative. The arena breathes softly, shadows deepening, dust settling, light fading. The silence is profound, yet alive, resonant with the inevitability of consequence. Jango moves through it as observer, participant, and witness, complete yet untouched, precise yet contemplative. The galaxy hums with activity, yet traces of Jango remain, subtle and pervasive. Clones march in perfect unison, yet each step echoes a template. Not merely flesh, but intention. Jango's presence is felt in posture, in reflex, in instinct. He is absent, yet tangible. Every formation, every maneuver, carries lessons he never spoke aloud. The Kaminoan's design ensured precision, but not identity. Yet identity persists in silent ways. Beneath armor, beneath regulation, something familiar moves. A tilt of the head, a quick glance, a reaction timed beyond conscious thought. The template lives on, a ghost in motion, a shadow threaded through countless soldiers. Memories of Jango surface in whispers, accounts from those who faced him, who trained alongside him. Stories converge, calculated, efficient, unflinching. Even in absence, influence permeates the galaxy like a quiet pulse. The clones themselves do not know, cannot feel, yet the imprint guides them. Mission after mission, battle after battle, the rhythm of Jango's design manifests. He is everywhere, yet nowhere. Silence is instructive here. The pauses between action carry weight. Every breath, every gesture, every shadowed movement is a fragment of a life that refuses finality. Observation is enough to feel it. The hand that once held a blaster now guides hundreds, unseen. The galaxy moves on, but Jango's echo lingers. Not in storybooks, not in memorials, but in the cadence of countless footsteps marching into war. Boba stands apart, yet entwined. He is not a clone, yet the pattern of Jango is written in every muscle, every reflex, every decision. Inheritance here is more than biology. It is a shadow that stretches across time. The boy's eyes hold recognition of a legacy he barely understands. Lessons learned without words, instincts absorbed without training. Jango's methods surface in quiet moments, tracking, aiming, moving with precision, born of necessity. The galaxy never allowed him a childhood. The template dictated adaptation. Boba inherits both skill and absence, capability and loneliness. He is complete and yet incomplete, a reflection refracted by circumstance. Memories of Jango linger faintly, reconstructed from stories, glimpses, and fragments of understanding. A gesture during combat, a pause before a strike, a measured step in a crowded corridor. Each echo reinforces what was lost and what continues. Observation and reflection reveal the weight of inheritance. Boba's victories, failures, hesitations, all bear the imprint of a father who was never truly present. And yet, in those imprints, there is clarity, a guide in the chaos of war. The shadow is both protective and burdensome. It teaches, shapes, constrains, and liberates simultaneously. Every choice he makes, every risk he takes, carries the gravity of Jango's influence. In silence, the father lives through the son. Not in voice, not in presence, but in action. The template persists, subtle, persistent, unavoidable. The galaxy burns, quietly or violently. And everywhere, Jango's design moves through it. Clones engage, deploy, strategize, each action precise, a reflection of training inherited from a single man. War carries his blueprint, and with it, the consequences of choices made long before. Tactics unfold in predictable patterns, yet subtle variations reveal intention. Every maneuver, every calculated strike, echoes the presence of a template once alive. The battlefield becomes a mirror, reflecting what was embedded into flesh and instinct. Commanders note efficiency without understanding origin. Generals observe coordination without recognizing the ghost at its core. Jango's influence seeps into strategy, guiding outcomes without a voice, without acknowledgement. Amid the chaos, quiet moments reveal clarity. A clone pauses, adjusts aim, anticipates movement. Small gestures, precise, almost imperceptible. They are fragments of a life multiplied across thousands. Even without him, Jango shapes survival, loss, victory, and defeat. The echoes persist in formations, in drills, in the disciplined motion of armies. War itself becomes a reflection of a single life. She multiplied, extended, unavoidable. History records battles, names, victories, losses, but it cannot capture subtlety. The template lives in nuance, in instinct, in micro-decisions that determine fate. The consequences of one man ripple endlessly, both seen and unseen. And still, the galaxy moves on. Jango's presence is quiet, pervasive, and inevitable. War is no longer just action. It is a continuation of the template he left behind. Silence falls over the galaxy, but it is not emptiness. Jango's presence persists, not as flesh, but as principle, as structure, as echo. Every clone, every movement, every calculated strike carries him forward. Boba moves through life under that same weight, inheriting both skill and absence. The boy's choices are shaded by a template he never fully knew, yet those instincts guide him with precision, like a whisper from the past. Memory does not confine itself to the living. Stories, observation, and repetition create living echoes. Jango exists in ways that defy absence, multiplied infinitely across the galaxy. Even the wars he never directly commanded unfold under his influence. Strategy, coordination, response, each is a thread woven from a single life. The template persists, quiet but undeniable, shaping outcomes without need for presence. Time moves forward, yet Jango remains stitched into it, not as legend or myth, but as living structure behind every trained hand. He is never truly gone. The galaxy records victories and losses, heroes and casualties, yet it cannot record subtleties of influence. Still, those subtleties endure, shaping, guiding, echoing. Every blaster's fire, every disciplined step, every instinctive decision is a continuation. Jango is absent, and yet he is everywhere. A life multiplied, a presence eternal in motion, a template that refuses to fade. The story ends not with closure, but with persistence. The echo remains. And in that echo, Jango Fett is never gone,